Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are feeling safe. Our safety moment today is about protecting your money, protecting your children. We have so many fraudsters purporting to be Unoc. They are sending out emails to you that there is this tender happening. They are sending out social media feeds that we have jobs and this and this and that, and yet they are fraudsters. So you end up losing your money. You send your children for an interview and that child will not come back home. And so it is really, really important that you check the email that is sending you these adverts. That is one of them that we whatever. And then there are also those ones that are purporting to be actually the people you know at Unoc. We all know Mr. John Bosco Habomugisha, but when you look at the email itself, it is operations at Unoc Limited ug.org. That is not a Unoc email. So in any case, when something comes up to your email, you have the Unoc website. Check to make sure that that advert is there. Check in the newspapers to see that that advert is there. But you also have our emails. You have the ones for the procurement unit. You have the ones for the national content team. Please inquire, but also go on our website and call. The numbers are there, and our team at the front desk will be able to confirm to you that yes, that is an advert that is true, or no, that is not a Unoc advert. But always be careful, especially with the email that is sending you that advert. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I think this is timely because many people have reached out and asked about opportunities they have gotten, and we have no idea about those opportunities. So without further ado, I'd like us to officially get this started, and I'd like to invite Samantha, our Chief Operating Officer, to come and give us the opening remarks.
Morning, everyone. I hope everyone has had breakfast and is feeling well fed. Can you say good morning to your neighbors? Exchange names, exchange pleasantries. This is going to be an active session. So as Peter, my head national content, introduced, my name is Samantha Mwezi. I'm the National Oil Company's Chief Operating Officer. National content is under my purview, and it is a privilege that it is so. So I'd like to welcome you all here today, ladies and gentlemen, our valued suppliers, our joint venture partners, Total Energies, CNOC, ECOP, and Vitol, our regulator, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and representatives as well from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. You're all most welcome. We don't take it for granted that you've taken time out of your day to be here and listen to updates from our projects, particularly Kasurban, which is the main project that this supplier development workshop is targeting, and also hopefully network and exchange with each other. So on behalf of the National Oil Company, I warmly welcome you to today's session, and I hope for your active engagement and participation, and that you make networks and partnership opportunities as you talk to each other throughout the day. So ladies and gentlemen, why are we here today? Why is national content still important even as first oil is quickly on the horizon as we look forward to that great day for our country? At the National Oil Company, we believe that national content is an engine for inclusive growth. What do we mean by that? As the National Oil Company, we count it upon one of our first objectives for our Ugandans to benefit from employment within the sector, to benefit from opportunities within the sector, for Ugandan-owned enterprises, small, medium, micro, and large, to benefit from the sector. We count it a success not only when the state's commercial interests are exercised across the petroleum value chain, but when our Ugandan companies participate meaningfully, gain value, deploy their human capital, deploy Ugandans across the value chain, and we see that we have a sector that can work for Ugandans and give value to Ugandans for the foreseeable future. Kasulu is one of our critical projects sitting in the upstream segment, and great strides are being made in the development of that contract area. We understand that Unoc's projects must speak to our citizens, they must speak to the national development goals of our country, and they must unlock value beyond just the sector. As the national oil company, we recognize that we have a mandate, a strategic mandate, to be a catalyst for economic development, for socio-economic transformation in our country. And it's a mandate that we take extremely seriously, but that we honor as a privilege for you, our citizens, and for you, our sector. So today, I encourage you to listen, to ask questions, not only of the Unoc staff present, but also of each other. Lock in, network, matchmake. I know we've had an extraordinary number of conferences in our journey to first oil as Uganda, and I really thank all of you for remaining interested in the sector, for continuing to devote your time, your resources to ensuring that Ugandans benefit from this sector. We don't take it for granted. We know it is a privilege to serve. It's a privilege to be here today and have all of you still interested in our opportunities. The theme today is Pathways to Unoc Projects. So we encourage you to explore all those pathways. Those pathways through working with us, but through working with each other, through strengthening partnerships, through building capacity, not only by events like this where you get an opportunity to hear about the different requirements needed to participate in the sector, but to learn from each other as well. I encourage you to be open, to be transparent, and to really unlock the potential that lies within Uganda and lies within Unoc's projects. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. A bigger hand clap. Thank you for the wonderful remarks. And I think one of the key takeaways from this particular conference should be that you leave here with all your questions answered. So I'd like us to put up the agenda so that you see how we are going to go through today. We've been able to have the opening prayer, we've had the safety moment, and the opening remarks. Now, we are getting into why we are here today. And to set us off on that journey, I'm going to invite our regulator, representative, Ms. Esther Nakahombe, to come and give us some updates of the overall sector, how we are doing, what's happening, so that by the time you leave, you know what is happening in the sector and what's going on. Please, let's put our hands together for Esther.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have we had breakfast? Yes, so let's talk like we've had breakfast. Good morning once again. Great. It's good to see all of you. You all look really lovely. Clap for yourselves. Okay, thank you. So, as introduced, My name is Esther Nakawombe. I serve as a National Content Officer at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. And this morning, we're going to give an update on First Oil project, the projects that we're doing, and some of the pathways that we can explore to participate in these oil and gas projects. I'll ride on the protocol that has already been observed, and I want to applaud Unoc for being so consistent in organizing these supplier development workshops that are very important for us as Ugandans. So let's get started. This is my presentation outline. We'll have already done the introduction. We'll have the legal framework. We'll have the overview of the oil and gas projects, the current status of the sector, where we are at now, and we'll have the pathways that we can explore to participate in the oil and gas sector. And lastly but not least, we'll have a chance to ask questions that we may have. Just to introduce to us what the Petroleum Authority of Uganda is, for the benefit of some of us who may be here for the first time and may not know, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda is the regulator for the oil and gas sector, and it was established under Section 9 of the Petroleum Upstream Act, in line with the National Oil and Gas Policy for Uganda, which was approved in 2008. And our mandate is to monitor and regulate the exploration, development, and production, together with the refining, gas conversion, transportation, and storage of petroleum in Uganda. Our vision is to be the leading petroleum regulatory agency, and our mission is to regulate and monitor the petroleum sector in order to create lasting value for society and to contribute to Uganda being a sound investment destination. Just to give us an overview of the key players that we have in the sector, we have the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development that's responsible for policy formulation and licensing of the minerals and renewable energy. And then right below it, we have the Petroleum Authority of Uganda that is responsible for regulating and compliance, ensuring compliance in the petroleum sector. And then we have the Uganda National Oil Company, that's our host today, that's responsible for the state's commercial interests in the petroleum sector. Yeah, so basically, Unoc looks out for whether the government will be able to gain from these projects or not. In terms of policy, we are guided by the National Oil and Gas Policy of 2008, and it's the key guiding document for the sector. In terms of laws, we have a number of laws in place. We have the Upstream Act of 2013, the Midstream Act of 2013. We also have the Public Finance Act of 2015, and we use other relevant statutes and guidelines that are to do with the environment, wildlife, water, income tax, land, among others. In terms of regulations, we have the new petroleum regulations of 2016 that address the different aspects of exploration, development, production, HSC, national content, among others. Another key guiding document that we use, especially under the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, is the Host Government Agreement, HGA, that guides how we relate with Tanzania, given that the ECOP goes through Uganda and Tanzania. This is just an overview of the projects, of what we have so far. We have the licensees. We have CNOC. We have Total Energies. We have Ama Energy, Oranto, Unoc, and DGR Global. We also have, so far we have 21 oil and gas discoveries in the country, and at the moment our drilling success rate is at 88%. It's anticipated that we'll have 6 billion barrels of oil in place, and of those 1.4 billion is in recoverable resources. At the moment we have 9 production licenses, and we've given over 14 discoveries to Unoc, Total, and we also had Talo that farmed out. And then at the moment, in terms of exploration, we have Ama Energy, Oranto Petroleum, DJR Global, and Unoc that's also in exploration. Upstream, the midstream, yes, the upstream and midstream. So, as I mentioned earlier, in exploration and appraisal, we have Unoc, we have DJR Global, Oranto, and Ama Energy. These are still in the exploration phase, exploration and appraisal, to see whether there's any oil in the areas that they've been licensed to. And then in the development and production phase, we have Total Energies, Unoc, and Unoc being a joint venture partner for Uganda in this phase. And then in transportation, which is really midstream, transportation, refining, and gas processing are in the midstream sector. Sorry, the midstream value chain of the oil and gas sector. So we have Total Energies, Unoc, and the Tanzanian ECOP. Sorry, we also have ECOP. Apologies for that. So currently, Uganda is in its development stage, and some people would like to call it the construction phase, and then we'll be moving into the production phase after first oil. So in the development phase, we have key projects. We are on the road to first oil, and the investment so far is about 15 to 20 billion US dollars. In the upstream development, we have different infrastructure that we've put in place so that we are for first oil. We have the processing facility, that is the central processing facilities for both Tilenga and KFDA, where Unoc is the operator. We've also constructed pipelines and feeder lines and access roads for different access roads to be able to transport the equipment and different things. We've also constructed camps where the people that work in these areas are able to sleep. So the investment so far in this upstream project is about $8 billion. And when we come to the refinery project, the expectation is that this refinery will be about 60 barrels per day, will help us to process 60 barrels. And we've constructed pipeline. We're going to construct a product pipeline for this refinery project. So there's still an investment on that, which is about 3 to 4 billion US dollars. And then when it comes to the East African crude oil pipeline, there's still an investment of approximately 3.5 billion US dollars. And we also have support infrastructure in place to be able to make sure that all these are operating well, like the airport in Hoima. I think some of us have been able to go there. If you've not been there, I encourage you to go there. We also have the industrial park still in Hoima, and the roads, if you go to Hoima, you will see that so many roads have been constructed. Some, we call them oil roads. So these roads have been constructed because of the presence of oil and gas in Hoima. So within all this investment in this development stage, there's so much opportunity for national content development. So just to take us through what national content means, and could someone want to give us a try on what they think national content is? I know some of you have been to these supplier development workshops for a bit. National content, anybody that would try to define it? Okay, seems no one is brave enough. But basically, national content is that value that is added or created in the Ugandan economy through the employment of Ugandan workers and the use of goods produced or available in Uganda and services provided by Ugandan citizens and enterprises. Why, you may ask yourself, why is it important for us to monitor national content? We monitor or regulate national content so that we can achieve in-country value creation and retention while ensuring competitiveness, efficiency, and effectiveness. We want you Ugandans to be able to gain from these projects. We don't want you to wake up in the morning and say that these projects were done, but we never gained. So we ensure that we regulate so that Ugandans can be able to gain. It also is very key in development of in-country human capital for oil and gas related disciplines. We have a number of disciplines in the oil and gas sector, engineering, HSC related, accounting, construction. We just have so many disciplines, so we get to gain from knowledge and technology transfer from the expatriates that we employ, who pass on their knowledge to the nationals. And another area, another reason why we monitor and regulate national content is to develop competitiveness of Ugandan enterprises to supply the oil and gas sector. The oil and gas sector is highly regulated, so it's important that as a business, as you want to get into the sector, that you are a formalized business and you're able to compete favorably with international companies that want to come into Uganda to do this business. So we have 5 pillars of national content, one being employment of Ugandan citizens, secondly being use of locally produced goods and services within the sector. Third, we have enterprise development. And fourth, we have transfer of knowledge and technology. And fifth, we have capacity building. So far, I'm just going to take us through the contribution of national content. So in our efforts to regulate and monitor national content within the sector, so far we've been able to achieve this. In terms of employment, we have over 16,375 people that are employed in the sector directly. And I'm happy to report that 90% of these are Ugandans, and 5,152 of these are from the surrounding communities. And then when it comes to contracting, which is consumption of goods and services, contracts worth over 1.8 billion, which is about 25%, out of the 7.2 billion that has been awarded to Ugandan companies. When it comes to capacity building, we've had over 14,000 Ugandans who have been trained in different disciplines, oil and gas related disciplines like welding, health and safety, environment, heavy goods, vehicle driving, scaffolding, among others. And some of them have been able to get international certifications, and some of these providers of international certifications have been able to domicile within the country, and would not be able to do that unless there was national content monitoring in the sector. In terms of enterprise development, we've had over 2,600 farms benefiting from capacity building programs, and about 5,900 of those have been engaged in supplier development workshops like the way we are here. And with the authority keeps organizing different conferences, for example, the annual National Content Conference and the Oil and Gas Skills Expo, where we engage with students who are interested in joining the oil and gas sector. And from those, we've been able to engage over 2,250. I think there's a problem with my presentation here, but it's about 2,250 over. In terms of technology transfer, we've had joint ventures that have been approved by the authority, over 35 of those, and consequently, they've also been able to obtain contracts in the sector, which facilitates technology transfer. We've also had different companies donate software to Ugandan universities and equipment to further facilitate technology transfer in the sector. So I'd like to go back. Okay, great, thank you. In the law, in the regulations, the government gazetted about 16 goods and services that are to be provided by only and only Ugandan companies. And as you can see here, we have transportation, we have security, we have foods and beverages, hotel accommodation and catering, human resource management, office supplies, fuel supply, clearing and forwarding, crane hire, locally available construction materials, civil works, supply of available drilling and production materials, environment studies and impact assessments, communications and information technology services, and waste management where possible. So in these 16 areas, we do not expect a company that is not Ugandan to provide these goods and services. So I encourage all of us, when you see the expressions of interest put there and they fall under one of these, to express your interest, not to shy away from it. So these are the pathways that we can explore to participate in Uganda's oil and gas sector. The very first thing before you get to supply any good or service in the oil and gas sector is registering on the National Supplier Database. By show of hands, how many of us have our companies registered on the National Supplier Database? Oh, great, great. A number of you. Thank you, and well done. Yes, for those of you that are not yet registered on the National Supplier Database, unfortunately, you can't provide any good or service if you're not registered on the National Supplier Database. So how can you get registered? In your Google search engine, you just type nsd.pau.go.ug. It will lead you to the home page, and because it would be your first time, you just click register here and you follow the prompts. However, you have to have certain documents in place, like your certificate of incorporation, like your tax clearance certificate, your NSSF clearance certificate. You also need your most recent URSB annual returns. And lastly but not least, we need a letter from your bank, a bank reference letter, basically saying that you hold an account with them. So those are the 5 key documents that you need to look out for if you're considering registering on the National Supplier Database. And then for the professionals here who would want to find work within the oil and gas sector, I would encourage us to also register on the National Oil and Gas Talent Register. Basically, this is a register or a database where you register to show that you're interested in working in the oil and gas sector. So when the different oil companies have job opportunities, they post these job opportunities there, and you'll be the first to get to know about them. But also, they usually go there to pick out candidates for disciplines that they might want. They could be looking for a process engineer, and probably they've advertised and they've not been able to find one, but they go and look through the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, and they're able to find the talent that they want. So to access the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, in your search engine, you type nogtr.pau.go.ug. Another area that another thing that you can do to participate in the oil and gas sector is to adhere to sector-specific standards. As mentioned earlier, the oil and gas industry is highly standardized and regularized, so you need to do your research as a potential supplier for the sector and find out what are the standards required in the oil and gas sector and how can I be able to get them, to be able to get those certifications that you need to be able to compete favorably with other entities in the oil and gas sector. Thirdly, you need to participate in conferences, skills expos, and quarterly supply development workshops, which you're already doing. When you come here, you've come here to network, you've come here to learn from each other, people share experiences. So it gives you an idea on what to expect when you enter the sector. Another area that you can explore as a pathway to participate in the oil and gas sector is to form joint ventures. If the goods and services needed are not available in Uganda, you form a joint venture with an international company where you, as a Ugandan company, should have a stake of at least 48%. And you should be able to actively participate in this joint venture in order for you to achieve knowledge and technology transfer. We've had instances where Ugandan companies form joint ventures with international oil companies, but they do not actively participate, so they lose out at the end of the day. So I encourage us, in the event that you form a joint venture with an international company, please ensure that you learn as much as you can from them, so that the next time the same goods and services are being advertised, your capacity has been built and you're able to take on the work, as a company. But also, still on this point of forming joint ventures, as Ugandan companies, you can still form a partnership. For example, if you're dealing in logistics and they put out an expression of interest for, let's say, $1 billion US, and you don't have the $1 billion US as one company, you can call upon maybe 3 other companies to come, so that you come together, form one company or joint venture, and then you're able to participate together, because then you have, your capacity is better than, your financial capacity to take on this work is enhanced, as opposed to when you'd be working as one person. Another area is for us to actually look out for these expressions of interest in widely read newspapers and company websites, as well as their social media pages. And in line with this, I think Jessica gave such a good safety moment this morning. As we look out for these expressions of interest, please ensure that you are not stolen from or like fraud. Just be very vigilant, because Ugandans are quite sharp. So there's need for you to also perform your due diligence to ensure that you are on the right track. Another way is for you to benchmark on best practices within the sector. You learn from those that are already supplying the oil and gas sector in terms of processes. What are the things that they are doing that made them that have sustained them through the sector. You'd also have to obtain certifications and qualifications required to do work in the sector. The international standards, you have to be able to comply with them before you can get to do work in the sector. And also, as a professional, there are certain qualifications that you should have for you to be able to find work within the sector. Lastly but not least, I think you should be able to watch out for licensing grounds and exploration blocks that are upcoming so that you're able to explore other investment or service entry points into the sector. So stay abreast with the news so that you're able to prepare yourself accordingly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of my presentation.
Another hand clap for Esther. Thank you so much, Esther, and we appreciate the work you're doing at the regulator. So we are getting there. We've heard from the regulator, we've gotten an overview of what is happening in the sector, where we are now. So now it's time for us to hear about what do we have cooking in Unoc. What is coming? What should we prepare for? So if you've not yet used your writing pad, this is the time to get it out, get your pen, so that as we hear about the upcoming opportunities, you do not miss out. Because as the national oil company, we are very committed to ensuring that Ugandans participate. So at this point, I'd like to invite Proskovia. She's going to take us through what we have cooking, what is happening in Unoc, what is going to happen. So let's pay attention. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Proskovia Nakazinga. I am the engineering manager for exploration, working for Unoc in the upstream department. I will be presenting to you today the update on the Unoc projects. So this is the outline. We'll basically look at the governance of the oil and gas sector. Then we'll have an overview of the petroleum value chain key projects. Then we will zero into the projects for Unoc, and then we'll look at Kasturban and the opportunities that lie therein. And then we'll conclude with the different ways that you can actually tap into the Unoc project opportunities. So the oil and gas sector in Uganda is governed by the following institutions. My colleague Esther from the Petroleum Authority has quite elaborated, but I can still go over it one more time. We have the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development that is responsible for policy, for promoting investment opportunities and licensing. Then we have the Petroleum Authority of Uganda that is responsible for the regulation of the players in the sector, but also monitoring the upstream and midstream and for ensuring compliance within the sector. And then finally, we also have Unoc. We are the responsible and mandated to manage the commercial interests in the oil and gas projects on behalf of the state. In terms of governance of Unoc, we were incorporated in June of 2015, and we have two shareholders. That's the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, having 51% shareholding, and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development having 49%. In terms of governance, we have 7 board members. Our executive management consists of 10 people. We have 194 staff, so our structure is almost 60% full. And in terms of gender, we have the male being 61% and the female at 39%. We have 2 subsidiaries that are wholly owned by Unoc, and that's the Uganda Refinery Holding Company Limited and the National Pipeline Company. In order to successfully deliver our mandate, we have entered into a number of partnerships and memorandums of understanding with different companies across the globe. We are all aware of our participation in Telenga and Kingfisher, which is a joint venture partnership with Total Energies and Unoc Uganda Limited. We also have, in terms of developing local content, we've entered into a joint venture with Peton in Nigeria, which is supporting us in that. We also, in terms of knowledge exchange, we have the Petroleum Commission of Ghana. Then for developing the technical capacity of our staff, we've also partnered with INSTEP in Malaysia, where we currently have 5 of our staff that are training in refinery engineering for a period of 3 months. That's just to mention some of them. We also have the negotiations that are ongoing with KUHA for the development of the Kabalega Industrial Park. So we'll have an overview of the key projects across the petroleum value chain. My colleague previously has already talked about the oil and gas industry in general that was developed based on the 6.5 billion barrels of oil discovered in place, of which 1.4 billion barrels are estimated to be recoverable. We've already been awarded as a country 9 production licenses that lie across Telenga and Kingfisher, and 5 exploration licenses, among which is the Kasturban contract area. There is still opportunity because of the Albertine Graben. Only 15% of it has been licensed, so there is still 85% that is unlicensed, and there is a planned 3rd licensing round that will be announced. Then out of all the 121 exploration and appraisal wells that were drilled, 21 of them confirmed oil and gas discoveries. So that puts our drilling success rate at 88%. So over there you can see some of the projects that we have across the petroleum value chain, starting with, of which the Unoc projects are cut across, starting with the upstream where we have exploration and appraisal. That's where Kasturban is. And then we have development and production where we have Kingfisher and Telenga. Then in the midstream, that's where we're having our refinery, Kabalega Industrial Park, and the crude oil pipeline. And finally, the downstream where we're having the storage terminals and the bulk trading business. So now we'll look at the upstream projects. We'll start with Telenga, which is located northeast of Lake Albert. This is in partnership with, being developed in partnership with Total Energies, Unoc, and Unoc, having a participating interest of 15%. This project has 874 million barrels of oil reserves, and this is going to be developed with 31 well pads and 427 wells. The work currently ongoing is the drilling of the development wells, which is being done with 3 rigs. And in order to achieve fast oil, we need 145 wells. Of these, they've been able to drill 133 wells to date. In terms of construction of the enabling infrastructure, that is ongoing with the construction of the CPF and the infill flow lines, and the EPC progress is over 54.4%. Now, the opportunities that lie therein, of course, we are having the drilling, so we have the drilling packages, the well intervention, EPC contracts, drilling and well services, access roads and well pads, and then the common services that include accommodation, transportation, camps, and insurance. The second upstream flagship project is the Kingfisher project, which is also a joint venture partnership with Total Energies, Unoc, and Unoc, still having 15% participating interest. It's located southeast of the Lake Albert, as you can see there in the pink circle. This project has estimated 186 million barrels of oil reserves, and this will be developed with 4 well pads and a total of 31 wells. We have currently the work ongoing is the drilling of the development wells, and this is being achieved with 1 rig, and to date they've drilled 14 wells that have been completed successfully. Then of course we have the construction that is going on for the CPF and the feeder line, and the progress of that is at 64%. So the opportunities are pretty much the same as the scope is the same. So the drilling, we have the drilling packages, a well intervention, the EPC contracts, the access roads, well pads, and then the accommodation, transportation, camps, and insurance. Now, we'll go into the midstream. In order to commercialize the oil and gas resources of Uganda, one of the efforts that has been made is to construct this pipeline, the East African crude oil pipeline, that will run all the way from Hoima, go through 10 districts in Uganda, cross into Tanzania, where it will go through 20 districts over there. That's crossing 8 regions in Tanzania, all the way to the Tanga port. This pipeline will have a capacity of 246,000 barrels of oil, and it will, before the refinery is in place, it will have the right to ship out the crude at its full capacity. It's 1,443 kilometers long and 24 inches in diameter. It will be buried, and this is to make sure that we mitigate any environmental and social to minimize the environmental and social footprint, and it will be heated because our crude is viscous and waxy, meaning that at surface temperatures it solidifies. So to ensure that it's able to flow, this pipeline will be heated. Now, currently in terms of the work being done, the detailed engineering design is almost at 90% completion by Wally. And then we have the civil works ongoing with the construction of 16 main camps and pipeline yards, as well as the 2 of the above ground installations. We've also completed the construction of the thermal insulation plant in Tanzania. This was by March of 2024, and pipe installation is ongoing. Currently, we've received up to 700 kilometers of lines of pipe, and work is ongoing with the construction of the marine jetty and the pipe coating at Sojo Tabola. In terms of progress, we are over 62.5%, and the ready for startup date is estimated to be in the second quarter of 2026. The opportunities therein are, of course, I didn't mention that this is also being in partnership with Total Energies, Unoc Limited, Unoc having 15% participating interest, as well as the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation. The opportunities in here include employment that is direct, indirect, and induced employment opportunities, as well as the EPC services and works and the supplies that are required for that. The other vehicle to commercialize the oil and gas resources of Uganda is the Uganda refinery. Currently, Uganda consumes almost 7 million liters of petroleum products per day, and this is growing at a rate of 9% over the last 10 years. And when we look at the petroleum products that are being imported, this comes at a cost of approximately $2 billion US. So this is a great opportunity for us to have our very own refinery, which will help us to develop the Ugandan domestic refining capacity, reduce the reliance of imported petroleum products, but also be able to meet the domestic and regional fuel demand. In order to develop the refinery, we've had Unoc enter into partnership with Alpha MBM, which will be contributing 60% towards this, and Unoc will be contributing 40%. This refinery will have a capacity of 60,000 barrels of oil per day, and it will have the first call on the oil, Uganda oil resources. It will be, the configuration is the residual fluid catalytic cracker, and the refined petroleum products will be stored at the Kampala storage terminal, and it will also have a product pipeline that is 211 kilometers long. Some of the products that we'll have is LPG. This will also have premium and regular gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, and low sulfur fuel oil. In terms of the progress on this project, we've completed the FEED and Asia, and implementation is ongoing. Then construction of the implementation of the construction of the Mbegu water abstraction facility and the multi-products pipeline RAP have been completed, and the implementation is ongoing. Then the biggest milestone that we've had is the signing of the implementation agreement that happened on 29th of March, and this leads us directly into commencing the incorporation of the refinery company, which is underway. The other commercial agreements that include the crude oil supply agreement that will ensure that the refinery has the volumes that it requires to operate, as well as the shareholders agreement, those negotiations are still ongoing with our partner. Construction is estimated to commence by the end of this year, and this construction will take, the development will take approximately at least 3 years, and it will be ready for startup scheduled for 2029. Now, of course, the direct impact that we're having from this at the macroeconomic level is an addition of 3.4 billion to our gross domestic product, and then 8.3 billion that is going to be added to the investment in physical assets. And then, of course, we'll also see a direct impact in terms of increase in employment opportunities with over 32,000 jobs. So now the opportunities, like I mentioned, it's the employment. We still have the engineering and G&G works that will be going on, the supply of goods and services that will be required, the refined products trading, power generation, and operational support. In the midstream, the other project that we have is the Kabalega Industrial Park, which is a petrol-based industrial park. It is 29.5 square kilometers located in Kabalega, Hoima district, and it will accommodate the second international airport in Uganda, which is at 95% completion. It will have the crude oil export hub and Uganda refinery, for which the FEED has been completed, and like I mentioned, the implementation agreement been signed for the Uganda refinery. We'll also have industries for fertilizers and petrochemicals, industrial gases, agro-processing, warehousing, and logistics. So for this project, we've had the master plan approved, and we're having negotiations ongoing for the acquisition of a joint venture partner. In terms of the land allocation policy, the cabinet has approved the service rates for the tenancy, and these are 1.5 for general industries and commercial premises, 1.25 for prioritized industries, and $1 for residential developments, and that is per square meter per year. In terms of the Asia, this has been completed and have been approved by NEMA. Now, preliminary works are ongoing to ensure that we have the facility where we have 6 kilometers for road alignment upgraded 6.2 kilometers of motorable roads. And Unoc and water management and the messages additional training and development operations and tracking that Unoc is managing storage terminals where we have the storage terminal was established March of 1970 and it of 30 million liters. The of this terminal to be 20 interest. Now to use upgrade terminal the size of the ginger storage terminal starting at a capacity of 20 million liters. This will be in Kampala, to have the other business that Unoc is into is the bulk products trading, which commenced in March of 2020, with the main objectives being to secure the supply of petroleum products and generate revenue for Unoc. This business will also I will now talk about Kabalega, which is able to start with each expiration period being years. Mean we can go 6 years, have exploration each have 2 years. So far, we've completed one of the exploration periods, and we've since been awarded, had our license renewed for the second. Looking at the block, it's approximately 1,285 square kilometers with 9 prospects that are the shading over there in yellow or beige, would that be? And this has, we've established the oil in place to be approximately 285 million barrels from our interpretation of seismic data. We've also confirmed working petroleum systems, meaning everything you need to have in place for you to have the petroleum has been confirmed to be present. That's our source, reservoir, trap, and seal, and migration pathways. And then, as I already indicated, because it's lying south of Kabalega, it has the advantage of having proximity to the oil and gas infrastructure network. As you can see, the feeder pipeline going all the way from Kabalega through the Castro Band to run down towards the south. Now, it has 100% participating interest, but the delivery mode for this will be through strategic joint venture partnership. Now, signing the PPA, the production agreement, we have minimum one program obligations, and for the first expiration period, these included seismic and raw data interpretation that was completed. And then we have the physical analysis reservoir characterization that was commenced last year and completed in December 2025. Then we have the basin and petrol 159 kilometer or seismic data that indicated by the black lines on the diagram at the bottom. So that's the infill seismic data. The contract has been managed very well, which we will do completion of interpretation of well data, and then we, upon the success of the exploration well, we'll also do the 3D seismic data. Now, the available data sets that we have for this project include the seismic quality, 1,009 of B. We already have 3 exploration that were drilled. That's Tai, Karaka, and Kakatu. Wells have line data and have data for one well, which is my time. We have data studies and consultancies for the petroleum resources assessments, lake drilling solution, and we will together with our joint venture partner develop a field development plan that will be submitted to the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development for review and approval, at the end of which we hope and believe that we'll be awarded a production license, and after which we will then go into field development and eventually start production. So in summary, you've had an overview of the different projects in Unoc and a highlight of the opportunities that lie therein. So these are some of the ways that you'll be able to tap into these opportunities. First and foremost, it's important that you understand the phases and scope of the Unoc projects. And this can be through different platforms and fora, including the Unoc website, different industry events such as Uganda Oil and Gas Summit, the East Africa Petroleum Conference, the local content conferences, and other institutions such as the Uganda Chamber of Mines, which can have information as well about the opportunities. From the Petroleum Authority, before you can qualify to participate in this, it is requisite that you actually assess the national status. So hope of so that the opportunity need content opportunity to take the ventures with the local companies and international companies to enhance your capacity to deliver. The relevant services that are the scope of works that we have currently in our projects include engineering, a few of them. Now, oil and gas industry is quite competitive, so there is a need for the different organizations and companies that are intending to take up these opportunities to build the capacity of their personnel to attain the relevant competencies and certifications in line with the oil and gas standards and best practices. The oil and gas industry, like my colleague mentioned earlier, does have very high standards, and we tend to have a zero tolerance policy for any fatalities and incidents. Therefore, it's important that you ensure that you're compliant with the different policies, the rules and regulations that govern the oil and gas industry, because that record is very important as we assess people that apply to take up some of these opportunities. Last but not least is definitely to invest in innovation so that you can be able to offer solutions or services that can enhance efficiency and compliance. We have opportunities with the climate change to come up with innovation and how to mitigate carbon emissions. Like I also mentioned, we also have a lot of these projects. So we have automations, so there is also a space in there for innovation. We're having digital transformation, so there is still a lot of opportunity to innovate in those spaces. Otherwise, I will conclude my presentation here and hope that you've been able to pick all the information that would be relevant for you to take up these opportunities. Thank you very much.
Let's give Prosi a louder hand clap. We have questions at a time and allow the teams to respond, and then we take another round. So all you have to do is raise up your hand, and then we'll have a microphone brought to you so that you can ask your questions. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joseph Birahanga. I'm the tax director at Taslaf Advocates. I had a question about the Kabalega Industrial Park. There are currently some tax exemptions that are for the benefit of a developer of industrial parks in general. And my question was, A, does Unoc, as the developer of Kabalega Industrial Park, intend to take advantage of those exemptions, particularly for VAT? And apart from that, the other implementing agencies that are providing infrastructure in that industrial park, will they be able to benefit from those exemptions as well? Because there is a question as to whether or not, for example, other infrastructure providers that are government agencies, the contractors that they have engaged to provide services for that industrial park, whether or not they would be able to have that VAT exemption applied to that service. So that's my question.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'd like to take a round of about 5 at a time, and then we respond. Okay, there's a question here.
Thank you very much. My name is Sona Oscar from Supplier Trading. I would also love to hear a bit of a breakdown of more of the opportunities in the industrial park. Basically, in terms of maybe recreation, entertainment, hospitality, what opportunities lie in between there?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you to all the presenters. My name is Patricia Nyakwira from Medical City Ambulance. PAU, Esther talked about international standards. And in this sector, a lot of reference is made to international standards. It is a new sector to the country. And these international standards are international but not known to us. It is very hard to get some of this access to information on these standards. So as PAU or as Unoc or as the main stakeholders, what are you doing to ensure that we, the contractors, suppliers, subcontractors, are able to get access to that information? Because in every bid that you read, there's something to do with international standards, and then you have to scratch your head to look for where those international standards are. And my other question is to the Unoc presenter. A lot is being said about other sector, other services and everything. I hardly hear anything about medical. And I speak because I'm from medical. I haven't heard anything about an opportunity for medical services. So where do I benefit in this aspect? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Namanya Joan from DMF Automations Uganda Limited. My question is to Esther. In defining what a Ugandan company is, I look at the Act, they do not define exactly what amounts to a Ugandan company. For example, there is a company that has 100% foreigners, but it's registered in Uganda. And the regulations state that it should be registered in Uganda. Would it qualify as national content, or the shareholding has to be maybe 50-50 or 51-49? I need clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Simao and I work with Octagon Uganda Limited. I would like a breakdown on the opportunities in the insurance industry and pension administration.
All right. Thank you so much. So I think at this point, maybe we take one more and then we respond.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Ryan Bagenda from Blue Crane Communications. I would like to know how open Unoc is to working with local suppliers, particularly because Percy talked about innovation. Yeah, I'm curious about how open Unoc is to working with digital companies to come up with these innovative solutions. And as you mentioned, not just in the oil and gas company, as well as the medical sector. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that question. So at this point, let me request we first respond to this round of questions and then we take another set. But we are going to ensure we answer all your questions. So we'll start with the, yes.
Yes, I think I'll start with the question on KIP and the incentives there, and whether they'll equally be used by the developer, which is us, the Uganda Refinery Holdings Company, and also any companies that will be in the park. So as Unoc, we're developing a special incentive framework for KIP, and this framework will be aligned with the East African Community Special Economic Zone policy, under which there are specific tax incentives and other benefits to promote export and trade across the region, and also harmonization. So our incentive framework is being developed in line with that policy, but equally in line with the Uganda Investment Authority guidelines and the tax incentives available underneath that. So those will be used also by us, the developer, but equally companies participating in the park and investing there. And we'll be launching also, we hope this year, an investor portal specifically for KIP, through which every company or investor interested in the park will gain access to information about the park and indeed the incentive framework that we're developing to attract investors to that particular project.
Thank you. I think we can now have Esther respond to some of the questions that were to the regulator.
Thank you. I had a question from Patricia about international standards, what are they, and what the authority is doing to ensure that contractors and subcontractors have access to these international standards. It's incumbent to you as a contractor or subcontractor, first of all, to find out in your industry, as let's say if you're in HSE related, if you're in the HSE industry or medical industry, or you're in logistics, to find out for yourself what are the international standards. You have to do research about your particular industry that you're in, and then you're able to find out how can I be able to get this certification that's needed. The authority always encourages the licensees and the licensees especially, and maybe tier 1 contractors, to ensure that they build capacity of Ugandans in such areas. So it's a research issue, really. You just have to it's up to you as a company to find out what are the sector-specific standards that I need, and so that you're able to do your research and get to get this certification. Find out what is needed for me to obtain this certification, and then you get it. The authority can only do so much in terms of encouraging capacity building for the licenses to build the capacities of Ugandan enterprises, but we also have work to do as Ugandan enterprises. I hope that has answered you, Patricia. Okay. Then the definition of a Ugandan company, I think that was from Joan. Joan, the definition of a Ugandan company, it has nothing to do with shareholding. A Ugandan company is one that provides value addition to Uganda, uses local raw materials, employs at least 70% Ugandans, and when it comes, now the shareholding issue comes in when you want to form a joint venture. When you want to form a joint venture is when the shareholding of the Ugandan party should be at least 48%. I hope that's clearer.
Thank you, Esther.
Yes.
So maybe to add to Esther's submission, when the authority is defining a Ugandan company and it's in the regulations, the national content regulations, like she has said, you mentioned that the company may be registered. So in the law, it specifies that to qualify to be a Ugandan company, the company should be incorporated in Uganda. That's number one. Employ at least 70% of its employees being Ugandan. But even furthermore, the law specifies the thresholds. In management, maybe 30%. Under the technical work scopes, at least 40%. Then support staff, those should be at 95% Ugandans. Then the element of value addition, she has mentioned, you need to be using locally available goods and services. And then the management and control of the company has to have participation of Ugandans. So those are the elements that the authority assesses to classify your company. Then in regards to the standards, in addition to Esther's submission that we have some work to do as the local enterprises, there have been efforts to make your life easier as you go about this research. We have collaborations with the Industry Enhancement Center, and we have a representative here as well as a Stanbic Business Incubator. When you have a requirement and you need support as an enterprise, kindly walk into any of these areas. They have people who are dedicated to support you to get those different standards and even help you in case you're having challenges with how to respond to a bid. They were created really to help Ugandan enterprises to participate. Then there was a question around how, if we are open to working with different suppliers in innovation, and yes, the answer is yes. As a national oil company, like we've seen our mandate, it's to really enhance the capacity of Ugandan enterprises, and we are open to partnerships. We have partnerships with companies all over the globe, and would be very interested in working with Ugandan companies as well, so that we come up with innovations that can help us to become more efficient, become better, and this can also be developed in collaboration, even for other sectors. If you have an innovation that you feel can support medical suppliers, we can be able to organize a workshop where we can put all of you in a room so that you get to appreciate how we can continuously improve our businesses. So at this point, I'm going to invite Philip to also respond to some questions that were raised.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. My name is Philip Sobita. I'm the general manager for the upstream business at the company. And thank you very much for raising the questions that have come through. Certainly they are very pertinent questions, and it will also help us improve on information that we'll be hoping to share with you in the subsequent workshops. I just want to add my voice to just a few areas that have been raised, and some of them have been responded to, but I just want to complement the submissions. One, on the question from Samantha on the openness of Unoc to work with the digital companies. Yes, my colleague has already said that we are very open to work with the companies, but I wanted to highlight that as a national company, we have an innovation strategy that we implement. And what that entails is that constantly we seek ideas from staff for addressing challenges that we have as a company. And so when these ideas come through, we have a process that we go through to try to develop the ideas. And without a doubt, if the solution to the idea will relate to digital technologies, then we are open to working with digital technologies that offer those solutions that we think we are interested in, to work with our teams that are developing these innovation ideas so that we can continue to make our processes efficient. Then Jessica from Octagon Uganda Limited, I think if I got you right, you wanted a breakdown or some ideas around changes in insurance and pension, is that correct? Yes. Again, as the supplier community, one of the things that we emphasize in these workshops is for you to familiarize yourself with the laws and regulations that we work with in the sector. And when you look through these regulations, there are a lot of requirements for insurance, as an example. And the insurance are various. It runs from third-party insurance for our, motor vehicles and other machineries, medical insurance. We're also required to insure all our assets. And as a national company holding an exploration license, we have to insure the assets in the license. We also have to ensure operational and business risk that we foresee as a company. And so, to answer your question, yes, the opportunities in insurance are actually numerous. What we shall take away from this is to try to focus a little more and put some flesh to the bones in the subsequent workshops that we shall have, so that some of you who are in the insurance space can actually benefit from this information. Similarly, medical. I think there was a question from Patricia on medical opportunities in the medical field. Yes, the opportunities are there, because in all our operational sites, we have requirements to ensure that the personnel involved in these operations have access to medical services. So we have clinics in all the CAMs and operational sites that we have. We have requirements for ensuring that we have first aid facilities for all ongoing operations. But also coming back to our headquarters, wherever we are here in Kampala or in Hoima, we also have requirements to ensure that we have medical services available for our operations, for staff and all the things. you may just have missed out on some of those expression of interest in the print and electronic media, but they have been going through in this media quite a bit, and I want to encourage you to just be on the lookout for these, and maybe, like my colleague said, one of the purpose for this workshop is to, network. So network with some of our colleagues in procurement so that they can highlight it to you when some of these opportunities come around. Those are the few areas that I wanted to just highlight again for emphasis. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So now we'd like to take another round of questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Moses Kisembo from Shiloh Farms. We do value chain development, agribusiness value chain development in the region. I have noted very interesting things from your presentations, particularly approval of the KIP master plan and the fact that some rates have been already agreed, even for priority industries, and I'm looking for at agro-processing. I have two questions. One has to do with the cold storage facility for handling fresh produce at the airport, Kabalega International Airport. And the second one has to do with whether Unoc, because of the unique position you occupy, where you interact with Total, with CNOC, with ECOP, you're willing to engage to facilitate a certain process. So on the first question of the cold storage facility for handling fresh produce, when can we have those conversations? At what point can we, and who do we talk to about that kind of space in the industrial park? And is Unoc, would Unoc be willing to help provide a platform where we can have strategic engagement? And this is what I mean by strategic engagement. In your position with all of these, I mentioned CNOC, Total, ECOP, you have access to the camp service providers. If using your platform, you can get the camp service providers in one hall, then we, the value chain developers, can lobby them to apportion a particular fraction of whatever they consume to the local farmers. Then that way, we can organize the locals to try and achieve that, meeting the standards, meeting the price requirements, and so on, competing favorably, but being able to talk to the camp service providers in one place. Is Unoc willing to, you talked about the medical people, you can bring them in one room. Would you bring the camp service providers in one room and we engage them in as far as value chain development for agriculture is concerned in the region?
Thank you.
My name is Mtieshimana Merida. I'm present the company called Network for Stepping Stones Approaches. Our work is, we work in the community, and I wanted to know if we can get an opportunity there. We have a program, GBV, HIV, AIDS, climate change. We use it, Theater for Development. We have Peace and Prosperity, which we have done in the Karamoja region and the Acho region. I wanted to know if we can get an opportunity there. We work in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you very much. Sorry, it's the second time. My question wasn't answered. My question is, can we have a bit of a breakdown of what's going to be in the industrial park? Let me give an example. If I want to build a golf course in the industrial park, do I come to pitch to you the idea, or do you already have certain, let me call them, components that are going to be in the industrial park that you already specifically have in your mind? Or is it the other way around, that I come with my idea, sell it to Unoc and the other parties, and then you buy into it and you ask me the A to Z and then we agree? I just need a bit of a breakdown in detail if possible.
Thank you.
My name is Godfrey Mujuni. I work with Crest Tanks Limited. And Crest Tanks is a manufacturer of water, sanitation, and industrial solutions. We are privileged to have a lot of interactions and supplies to the different contractors in the oil and gas. However, I have two questions to ask here. Number one is that as we are dealing with the contractors, these different contractors, most of the time to be able to get the opportunity to supply them, you need to give to them very competent payment terms. Most of the time they want credit, okay? So now these credits, we do give them, but sometimes we feel for most of those that we have not worked with before, we are not sure. So my question is there any fallback position that in case some of these contractors in the oil and gas that are doing major projects get credits from a supplier like Crest Tanks, what is the fallback position in case they default? Is there any way that Crest Tanks can get help without going to the courts of law? Then secondly, most of these, like I said, most of the contractors, we do supply them, especially what we can supply to them. But also we do have cases whereby we respond to quotation requests, and these quotation requests, the quotations that we submit are not responded to without giving any reason, whether we have failed or whether the procurement process was cancelled. It just goes silent. And in many cases, we have tried to get to know why. What is the reason? Was it cancelled? They just said, no, it was not cancelled. And sometimes you get to know that the deal was given maybe to another supplier, which is also okay. But what we want to know is there anything missing on our side? And in most cases, we do submit everything that is required, the certifications, competitive prices, which we are sure, because we have, it's not only the first time that we are supplying these kind of things to the same industry. So we get perplexed to not knowing that we have maybe any issue around that we need to work around to make sure that we are competent enough to compete and win some bids. So now, in such situations, what can we do as suppliers that are not getting good response and without any feedback? Is there anything that we can be helped, where we can be helped from beyond that contractor only? Is there any way Unoc or any other organization within the oil and gas that can help us to sort out such issues with these organizations that are not responsive to quotations, yet they keep on asking for those quotations from you? Because
thank you.
We need to know.
All right, thank you so much. There's a question.
Muhumza Bagede from Unispec and Women in Energy and Extractives Network. My question is, this is a male-dominated sector. What advantages, if any, are there for women-led businesses?
Okay, thank you for the question.
Thank you. I'm Jackson Biaragava from BBT. My question is the first one is to PAU. For most of the Ugandan companies which are not here, the system is always down when they are trying to enroll onto the NSD. I think you need to work on it. And also the turnaround time. Because if you actually want Ugandans to participate, it shouldn't take a year to get approvals. And then the other question is, most times when you try to register a JV, some of the reasons they give is, this company hasn't done this work, but you find most of the work is very technical. So how can the Ugandans be helped? For example, if I'm going to do rigging, and there's no Ugandan company which has done rigging in oil, I put in my JV, you've gotten your international company, you've even traveled to get to register the JV, and PAU flatly just denies you that. What are the mechanisms that we can put in place as Ugandan companies? Maybe give us a criteria what we should follow. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that question.
Good morning. I'm Isaac Amulumba from Channel Enterprises Limited. We deal in public transport, both passenger and cargo, and we also deal in general supplies. Now, my comment is that at Channel Enterprises Limited, we are deeply concerned about the QHSEs. And I appreciate that also Unoc, the same, they're also concerned about that. Now, my question is about the MPG plant. I don't know the feasibility studies which were done and the reason why the MPG place was selected, because I believe it is near the residential areas and also near Kampala, and we are deeply concerned about the environmental issues and with the recent tragedies which have happened, like Htezi. So how are you assuring us that such issues will not rise up in the future? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Okay, let's take two more and then we respond. And then
good morning, everyone. My name is Kaizi Abdul. I work with Mount Consults. We are electrical and mechanical engineers. Now, my question is about capacity building. The petroleum industry is quite new in our country, and I appreciate Unoc because we see Total is training welders and other people related. But now, in the more specific sectors, as we have seen a question before, especially in the design and engineering, where Uganda has no capacity since the sector is still new. Does Unoc have anything in place to enable Ugandan firms to build capacity in these more specialized industries? Because I see there's a company, a previous speaker talked about, it's called Wallo, which has done, I think, 90% of the pipeline design. But was there any Ugandan company involved in the design? And also, I see you are going to start the construction of the refinery. Can we have something in place whereby Ugandan firm takes part in the design and engineering so that we can also build capacity in the more specialized fields? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's take one more, we respond, and then we'll... Yes?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Malis Raj Kasim. I work for Masir International SMS Limited. At Masir, we supply construction materials, PPE, and hand tools. I would like to first thank Unoc, Unoc, and Total Energy for establishing an institution as Industry Enhancement Center, where one goes to petroleum authority of Uganda if they are around. I'd like to know in case during registration in NSD, a company registered for services, but along the way, this company realized that their path had changed according to the experiences that they have gotten along the way, and they want to change these services to a different service. Is it possible? And if it's difficult, what can we do to make such changes? Because things change along the way. That's one. The second question is concerning small companies, because usually we talk about SME, and when we talk about SME, we mostly think about the M, not the S. And yet there are very small companies that also need to benefit from this institution or this opportunity. So if you take a look at oil and gas opportunities, they are mostly big. And when we ask how we're going to benefit, why are these things not broken into pieces? And the answer is that you need to partner. But I want you to know that for you to partner, you have to partner from the point of what? Of strength. So it is very difficult for these small companies to find a partner or a joint venture that is willing to work with them at this stage. So they have to first build capacity. And you have to build capacity when you're getting opportunities to pay your bills, to be able to come to such functions, to do all these sort of things. So I want to know how are we going to benefit for SUA as the small companies, since the projects are always big and the opportunities that comes are very big for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's respond to the questions, to this round of questions. I think we'll start with Samantha.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, I'll touch on the question specifically addressing Unoc's projects, and my colleague from the authority can respond to the several questions for her. So on the choice of the MPG plant and its impact on the environment and the concerns that were raised by the individual. So all of Unoc's projects are compliant with local and international standards. Our projects are designed and executed with safety, sustainability, and an impact on the communities in mind. So I want to assure you that we have well considered in the feasibility study that's ongoing for the Mpigi plant. We're considering the environmental impacts, the social impacts. We will submit to the process by our regulator, NEMA, and obtain the required ESIA certificates and other approvals, and develop the environmental social management plan and comply with it fulsomely, as we have done on all of our other projects. So I would like to reassure you on that particular question.
Thank you so much. Then we can have Esther responding to some of the questions to the regulator.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth. One of the questions or concerns actually is to do with the NSD system being down almost all the time and the need to improve the turnaround time. We recently transitioned from an old system that we were using to a new system. So in some instances, I agree we've had some system downtime, but we've done our best really to ensure that the downtime is not for so long. So it doesn't take a day before we resolve those issues, but we're going to take this as feedback and we're going to improve on this, but we're doing our best. Then in terms of the turnaround time, it could be one of the reasons why your application maybe was taking long is probably you did not have all the requirements. Remember when I was presenting, I gave you 5 requirements that you need to fulfill. So it could be that maybe you did not have all those requirements as stated. It's important that you have these requirements, because without them, then you're not able to be registered. But also we usually have registration, NSD registration clinics at the IEC every every quarter, every month. Every month, there are registration clinics at the Industrial Enhancement Center. So I'd like to encourage the gentleman to find some time and pass by so that he can be helped in that regard. Then when it comes to joint ventures, there's a concern that you applied for a joint venture and you were rejected on grounds that you did not have the competence. One of the requirements for you to enter into a joint venture with another entity, with a foreign entity, is that you as a Ugandan company, you should show capacity to ably participate in the execution of this contract through contributing financially, technically, or by providing human resource. So you can't be somebody that is doing finance consultancy and then you want to partner with somebody that's doing rigging services. We want to be able to see how you have the technical capacity to execute these services. And when you enter your when you're forming your joint venture agreement, because those agreements are sent to the authority before we recommend or approve your joint venture, you should show us what, as the Ugandan party, what are you bringing on board in terms of technical capacity, in terms of financial capacity, and in terms of human resource. And then what is the foreign party bringing to the table? So if you do not clearly spell out what you're bringing to the table, then it becomes difficult to approve your joint venture. We want both parties to be able to gain from that joint venture. Then there's another question to do with the NSD. If you want to change the services or that you applied for, yes, it's very possible. You log on to the system, the platform. There is an area where you can change. In the event that that fails, you can always send an email to nsd@pau.go.ug and you'll be helped in that regard. Lastly but not least, he also asked that how can small companies benefit from the businesses that are advertised in the oil and gas sector. As I was presenting, I mentioned that it's important for us to form partnerships within ourselves as Ugandan companies. If you're a small company, form another a partnership with other maybe 4 so that your capacity is enhanced. Your capacity to take on these big projects is enhanced. There you are able to participate and gain from the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Phillips?
Okay, thank you. I'll just add my voice to a few areas that were raised. I'll start with KIP. Do we have a slide on KIP?
Kindly project the slide.
Okay, so there was a question from Oscar, and when you look at this slide, the industrial park has been zoned. So you have areas where we shall have the heavy industries, light and medium industries, agro industries. We will also have areas where we plan to have residential areas, recreational areas, and all the things. So to your question, yes, indeed, we'll have areas that are earmarked for recreation activities. Now, like you saw in the presentation, we have just had one of our final approvals for that will enable us to now commence the opening up of the park to investors. And so the next step that we are going to go into is now sending out expression of interest, which will be phased depending on the priorities that we shall come up with. And with those publication of expression of interest, if it's within your area of interest, we expect that you will respond to it. And then those proposals will be evaluated. And yes, then you'll be given the outcome of that evaluation. So I think what is important here that I want to highlight is that the process is on. It was Moses that asked the contact of who to talk to and when the conversation will begin. The development of the KIP sits under our subsidiary company, the Uganda Refinery Holding Company Limited, that is headed by our general manager for that function, Dr. Michael Nkamba Mugerwa. And so if you like, you can reach out to our team to get the contacts of the team responsible for the development of the KIP so that you can begin the conversation with them. But what I take from this workshop is that there is growing interest in the KIP now. And so in the subsequent workshop, we'll endeavor to make sure that we also package some of these projects that are now of quite some interest to you separately. I'm sure you noticed that this workshop was tailored for Kasurubani, which is an exploration license that we operate. But I want to thank you very much for your expression of interest in these other projects, and we've taken note of the interest. And yeah, for sure we'll make sure that we begin to interact with you in a bit more detail and get to the relevant teams that can take forward the conversation with you in this workshop. But we'll give you these contacts, and that's how we have zoned the park. And I think the point to take here is that if there are any areas among those, 6 that you believe you want to work with us in developing the park, you're welcome. And we'll get you to the right contacts. There was a question from, I don't know whether I got this name right, Milida, who is a social worker, a community worker. She asked for opportunities in some of these social services, HIV/AIDS services, climate change, peace and prosperity, and all the things. Yes, we do have opportunities. Now, the opportunities come in various forms. I think you saw in the presentation for the Kasurubani contract area that in this calendar year, we're also undertaking some social investment, which includes HIV/AIDS prevention, sensitization and prevention in the areas that we operate in, and many other related social investment. But also, for some of the mature projects, we, as a requirement, you know that we have to undertake a resettlement action plan. And as part of the implementation of the RAP for these projects, we have to undertake livelihood restoration projects for the affected communities. And I think some of these fall under your areas of interest. But I think the key thing here is that all these opportunities, as and when they come, we roll them out in the, on our websites and in the print and electronic media for you to be able to access them. Let me see if there was one still left. Yeah, so there was one from Abdul on capacity building, especially on engineering design. I think Abdul raises a very important point. I'm sure you've seen the slide that both PAU and Unoc presented on the ring fence services for Ugandan companies. There was, a cycle there which showed the categorization of the services. So in this sector, you have services that are very highly technical in nature. And in most cases, they are also very capital intensive. So detail engineering, right from basic designs to detail engineering designs, those are some, then eventually to procurement and construction. Those are some of the services that are considered to be very highly technical, but also very capital intensive. And so, to Abdul's point, it takes deliberate effort to build national capacity to deliver these services. So as a national company, we have taken note of this as an area of our focus. And for the projects that we are directly in charge of, at the point of developing the contracting strategy, we will focus on how we can ensure that those projects develop national capacity in EPC in general. Of course, for the projects that have already sailed, Telenga, Kingfisher, ECOP, and the rest, we have taken learnings from them as a country and as a national oil company. And so we want to use that learning in some of the projects that we are directly in charge of, like I said, so that we develop capacity internally within the country to be able to do detail engineering from the full scope. And that's the only way we can be an independent oil and gas company.
Maybe we need to get another mic.
Thank you very much, and I'm called Mariana Hawe. I'm the National Content Manager for ECOP, and I'm so delighted to be here in this workshop. I felt wanted to just add my voice or a small comment to what my friend Moses Kisembo raised regarding strategic engagements for different licenses in the oil and gas companies sector, where Unoc is a shareholder and definitely an owner. So, in respect to ECOP, we have 6 camps, and these camps are already operational. And your idea of strategic engagements on how to engage with the communities is very, very valid and good. However, what I would say is, since these camps are already running, each of these companies has their strategy on how they are engaging with the communities. And it's working to some extent. But your expertise as a value chain developer or company would be very, very good. So what I would advise Moses is, let's get in touch with these companies. There are 6 of them on the ECOP districts. Let's find out how they are doing it, and you can see how we can add value in the current way they are doing it. Telenga may also be having a different way they're doing it, but then we need to be a little bit aggressive. We may wait on Unoc to hold this meeting, and it may take us another 1 year, and before we know, the eco project is done and we're in a different phase. So let's engage right away. If you need any support, we're here to support, to see how we can connect you and link you. We always have supplier development forums that are specific for camp management and suppliers of these foods in the communities. It would be good that you be a part and add value to that. Thank you. That's what I wanted to add to this conversation.
Thank you, Marianne. So you can see that in the room we have all the different partners, so you're in the right place. If you wanted to have a discussion with ECOP, the person is already in the room. Maybe I'm going to add there are some few questions that I'm going to add a voice to, and then we'll get into the next phase. I'm going to request those of you who still have questions, kindly write them down. We're going to pick them because we have another Q&A session after the next presentation. So I request that you write them down. The team is going to come and pick them so that we can answer them in the next Q&A session. There was a question around capacity building, especially for technical areas, and someone noted that Wally has done almost 90% of the design. So I'd like to say that for the oil and gas sector, there's been deliberate effort to ensure at least Ugandan companies learn as the work is being implemented. So Wally, as it implemented its project, it had 2 Ugandan companies that were working alongside it. There was New Plan and then ICS. So those staff have been heavily engaged in the entire process, but also staff from the authority as well as from some of the joint venture partners were also seconded to support the implementation. So in terms of knowledge transfer to Ugandans and Ugandan companies, it's actually happening. So it's just a matter of seeing how do I, as an individual or as an entity, how do we get into these partnerships and support? And then there was someone who raised a comment from Questanks about a fallback position. If you have dealt with a supplier, you have a contract, but they've failed to honor. So for such scenarios, I'd advise that you write to the Petroleum Authority, because we have a regulator who ensures that all the work that we do is in line with the law. So if you have a challenge around either your contractor or subcontractor not delivering on their mandate, there can be a redress. You can write to the authority, they'll handle that process without having you to go to court. So there is a fallback position, and you'll be supported. Because we want to ensure that at least as much as possible, all the things that are done in the sector are in line with the law. Then quotations that are requested but not responded to. As the national oil company, we'd like to say that we respond, whether you're successful or not, and we'll give you the reasons. And I think this will be a good takeaway for our other partners and contractors, that we request that we always give feedback. The thought behind the supplier development workshops was that in these workshops, we get to give you feedback and identify where you have gaps so that we can close those gaps. Now, at this point, I'm going to request that we move on to the next session. We have another slide, another presentation that is really looking at what is it that you should do. We've talked a lot about partnerships. You should partner. But you may not know how do we go about this. So the next presentation is going to take us through how we should go about the joint venturing bit. And I'm going to invite our colleague from our legal department to come and present on this. Then after that, we'll have a question and answer session. I hope you're writing down the questions that you have so that we can pick them and we'll respond to them in the next Q&A. So let's put our hands together for the legal team.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Albert Kinali from the Legal Department, Unoc. Now, me and my colleague are going to take you through the legal aspects, key legal aspects to our providers and suppliers, what you need to know, what you must have, the things you shouldn't miss out. How do we onboard you as Unoc? How do you join us as partners? So you need to pay keen attention to this because we've had partners that have fallen off because of very, very minor things that actually should not be a very, very good reason to miss some contracts. Now, next slide, please. Now I'm going to make a brief introduction. The channels, how do you engage with Unoc? How do you become a strategic partner? What are the legal requirements? Then my colleague will take you through participating in procurement, the common legal pitfalls, the things we usually encounter in legal that providers don't meet, and the key takeaways. Now, as you all know, this is a very new sector. It's complex and very capital intensive. Unoc requires partners both locally and internationally to be able to achieve its goals in the oil sector. How do we engage with our partners? As you may all have heard from the different speakers, we do joint ventures, incorporated and non-incorporated joint ventures. Incorporated joint ventures are where we incorporate an entity and we become shareholders in that entity. You've heard about the National Pipeline Company, you heard about the refinery company. Now we're going to incorporate the Kabalega refinery company as well. Unincorporated is separate legal entities that enter through a corporation purely by an agreement, such as Total, Sinoc, and Unoc, the agreements we have. Those are unincorporated joint ventures. Now we also get in collaboration through procurements for goods, procurement for works, procurement for supplies and services. As I've already told you, we do joint ventures, both incorporated and non-incorporated. We also do strategic alliances. Currently, we have a strategic alliance with the government of Tanzania on the construction of the pipeline. We do equity partnerships with our joint ventures. These are to do infrastructure, upstream, refinery, and energy transition. Now, the legal entry points are competitive selection. This is procurement, purely procurement. Procurement through the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, and upstream procurement through the procurement regulations. We also do partner due diligence. If we are going to partner with someone, we do due diligence and find out if they're actually the right person to partner with for a certain venture. We do shareholding negotiations with different companies and we get into shareholding agreements with them. Now, these are the prerequisites if you want to partner with Unoc. One, what is your legal status? As you've been told by POW already, you should be an incorporated company. Sometimes we need a local incorporated company. Sometimes we need international companies. You need to be a company that's on the national supplier database, the legal requirements. We also look at the integrity and reputation of the company. Are you a reputable company? Are you having disputes here and there? Are you having labor disputes? Are you a reputable company to deal with? What else do we look out for? We look at your financial soundness. If we give you this contract, are you able to pull it off? Do you have the technical capacity? Do you have the financial capacity if you are awarded a given contract or if you enter into a partnership with Unoc? won't you get somewhere along the way and be stuck financially? So we look at your financial capacity to deliver both financially and technically. We look at the local content. What is your local content plan? How many Ugandans do you employ? How much technology transfer are you doing to Uganda? What is your capacity building plan? Okay? We look at environmental aspects. As you know, in this sector, we really pay keen attention to environment. So do you have an environment, and how sensitive is your company to the environment? I think what's missing there is compliance, and especially regulatory compliance. Do you pay taxes? Do you have key policies in your company? Do you, are you compliant with the regulations set by PAO? So these are things we look out for if we are going to partner with you as Unoc. Now, as I told you, we procure goods, we procure services, we procure, all those procurements are done through the PDU, the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. Then we have procurements, upstream procurements that are done through the upstream regulations. How section 85 to 94 of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act gives us the different bidding methods that we use. We do open domestic bidding. This is open to all companies that are both national and international, so that we promote competitiveness and we get value for money. So we also do restricted bidding. If we have a certain pool of suppliers that we know will give these services, we do restricted and invite those given suppliers. We also do quotations. We invite quotations. Write to you, give us a quotation. I had someone speak about quotations, that people give in quotations and they don't get feedback. One principle of procurement is that it should be confidential. So once you give in your quotation, maybe to answer him, once you give in your quotation, the process is confidential for Unoc. What happens is we look through the quotations, see the best quotation, and then we come out with the best, what we call the best evaluated bidder. Then we give a BEB notice, best evaluated bidder notice. That one is sent to all the people that gave in the quotations to let them know that this person turned out to be the best. And we also put it on our website. We also put it on the notice board. So we also do restricted international bidding. If we know that certain services may not be available in the local market, we do restricted international bidding to invite international bidders into. So those are some of the bidding types that we do, but they're all provided within the law. And how these are selected by our contracts committee. You come up with the most viable bidding method. The contracts committee approves it. Then you say, this is the most viable to get us the best competitor. Then we send it out there. Examples of the services we procure legal advisory services, we procure cleaning services, we procure logistics and maintenance, we procure ICT and digital services. Just like any entity having staff, we procure a lot of services from you, the providers. The methods, I've taken you through them. We do all the different methods. This is to ensure competitiveness, to ensure confidentiality, to ensure value for money, to ensure fairness, all the principles of procurement. We really make sure as Unoc, we comply with them and try to achieve them. You must have heard this about a number of times now. The kind of procurements we do: works, supplies, consultancy, non-consultancy, and you can see the examples: works, construction, IT services for supplies, legal advisory for consultancy. We do consultancy for human resource. Then we do non-consultancy services: cleaning, funeral management, catering services. All these are taken up in, this is just to mention but a few. I'll invite my colleague to take you through the legal pitfalls that we encounter during procurement. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We had a lot of energy in the morning where we were asked to repeat, so I'm also going to do the same. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know we are all very, very excited about the presentations happening today. What we are seeing coming on is that people are excited about the opportunities. We're excited about the projects as they are coming along the way. We are excited to partner with Unoc and also to provide goods and services with Unoc. But as the legal department, what has been happening is that we have been sitting on the sidelines to evaluate, to look at your proposals, to understand how you're giving us the documents. And to answer the gentleman's question, today we are here to let you know, for those who probably don't get feedback from us, who don't understand why one or two things have not gone proper, we are here to help you understand what you need to do in terms of your documentation to get it right, so that in the next procurement, in the next proposal that you're submitting to Unoc, in the next proposal you're giving us, you have given us all the documentation that we need. You have all the requirements, the licenses, etc., and we're going to go through them in detail. So whereas you had all those questions, I hope by the end of this presentation, we have answers in terms of the documents that we need to have as you come to partner with Unoc. I just want to stand on the back of my colleague and just help you understand what the procurement of Kasturban looks like. For Kasturban, we have the different types of procurement methods, but we have thresholds for the procurements. For example, we have above $500,000 US, we'll have open bidding, so the entire public will be invited to bid for this kind of work. Anything below $500,000 US, we're going to have selective bidding. So we're going to look at the bidders or the providers who have been registered on the National Supplier Database. So this database has been literally sung, and I'll say it's a song, along the entire conference. I want to emphasize that it is important for you to register on that database. If you haven't heard from our PAU contact, please go onto that website and register today, because otherwise it would not be beneficial for you to live here if you have not yet registered. So $100,000 US and below, we are looking at single sourcing, and we also have sole sourcing for the specialized skills that we need from the market. So as far as the upstream contracts are concerned, that is how we are going to source for the providers. And I want to take you through what we call the legal pitfalls at the bidding stage. And I want all of us to appreciate that when we get an EOI in the newspaper, you get an RFP, you get so excited. You want to put together all your technical competence documents, you want to put together all your documents, and we appreciate that there's always not so much time to put these documents together. But we want you to understand that for us as an entity, compliance is not compromised. When we ask for documents, kindly submit the documents in the manner that we have asked for them, because otherwise we will then come back and get more questions of, I submitted my document, I have all the partners that I need in place, what happened? So please, compliance for us, we do not, we have zero tolerance, to non-compliance, okay? And it is critical that you submit all the documents. So number one, we're looking at the common mistakes that are seen by legal during solicitation. We're looking at incorrect basic eligibility documents. So lack of the required licenses or the registrations. And I'll give you an example. Maybe you're in an HSC field. You're in a specialized field that is regulated, like one of the oil and gas. We require you to have those licenses. And sometimes you submit the license when it is expired. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have absolutely nothing to do with that license. We will reject that license. And there are those requirements that are prerequisites that are a pass or fail. If you submit a license that is expired, that is a pass or fail. We are not going to write back to you to ask you, why did you submit this kind of information? Because it is clear that the license is expired. Registrations, it might seem a bit simple that you can get a certificate of incorporation, but you need to understand and look at the document. If it requests for certification of that certificate of incorporation, rush back to URSB, get it certified, give us a certified copy. Just that issue of certification can fail you, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll have questions of what exactly happened. We have non-compliance with nationality or local content requirements. I'm happy that in this particular conference, we have detailed the national content requirements, so I will not belabor that point. There's compliance on tax, and expired trading licenses, I have already spoken about expiry, and tax, we need to see those tax certificates. And ladies and gentlemen, we actually go ahead and do due diligence on the tax certificates. We will check the URA website if it requires, and we've not got sufficient information, we will write to URA to confirm those tax certificates. So the next point is about submission of late or incomplete proposals. We have seen often a time, and here I need to pause and really emphasize that it is very disheartening for us to receive an incomplete proposal. And I'll give you one very, very, an example that you would think that anyone else would be able to meet. In terms of submission, the law requires that we either submit in stages or in envelopes. So sometimes you'll find procurements that require you to submit in 2 stages. So the first stage, you will submit your technical, we'll evaluate that, and then you submit financials. We'll call on the financials. So there you are notified of the stages. But in other cases, and in most cases, especially for our procurements, both for upstream and PPDA, we're going to request for envelopes. So we'll ask you to have a single envelope, and then we'll ask you to have 2 envelopes in one. Very recently, and because of confidentiality, I cannot explain which companies have done what, but you'll open an envelope and you'll only find 1 envelope within. So we ask that you submit 1 large envelope, but within there, we need 2 envelopes having 1 technical and the other is financial. Why? Because it helps us in our assessments. Ladies and gentlemen, they may seem a bit simple as you hear them, but when you open an envelope and it only has 1 envelope, we are going to reject that, and that is going to be rejected at the preliminary stage. We are not even going to look at your technical. It is that sad. So I want us to take it very seriously. Please read the bidding documents through and through so that we can be able to help each other as we progress along provision of services to Unoc. The other one is a mismatch of names on the registration documents. As we invite you to give us your proposals, we invite that you give us, of course, on your company letterhead, and you tell us who the bidding entity is. It becomes very sad to note that the documents that have been submitted actually belong to a different company. Maybe it's a different certificate of incorporation of a different company, or documents about experience for another company. That becomes very sad because we cannot do anything with that information. And for those who have subsidiaries, we have seen this in so many other companies. You have a parent company, and then you have maybe 1 or 2 subsidiaries. So the parent company is giving us the documentation or is giving us the proposal, and they're saying that in the response that the parent company is going to undertake the work. But in the documents, you're giving us incorporation documents or registration documents for your subsidiary, and in your description, you're not able to tell us how the 2 are going to relate in terms of giving us the services. It becomes difficult for us now to receive a proposal from one company and then evaluate documents of another company. So with that in mind, you can see how our hands are tied. We will not be able to proceed with that kind of document. So I will then move on to missing or invalid powers of attorney. Powers of attorney is an issue that we see almost in 3/4 of the documents. Either it is missing or it is not relating properly to the works or services that are going to be, that are being procured, or it is not properly signed. So we've prepared a full slide on powers of attorney, and bear with me, we are going to get there and we're going to discuss it further. And it goes hand in hand with lack of authority, because the power of attorney is supposed to issue the authority to the person who's going to sign the document. Please also note that if you send us a proposal, but the proposal is signed by a different person from the person in the powers of attorney, that in itself is going to be a non-compliance, because we are not sure who exactly, whether the person who is signing has the powers to sign that document on behalf of the company. So it is important that you match all these documents together so that they make our life easier, in terms of compliance, to understand who you are, who is signing for you, and does that person have powers in that capacity. There's something else that we don't have here, but I would like to speak about it. It is on bid security. So in some proposals, we are going to invite you and request you to declare that you're going to be with us along the journey until we issue the contract, and that you will sign the contract. And that is the purpose of a bid securing declaration, where we ask you to declare that at the time that you submit your proposal, first of all, that you're all in, you're able to give us the services, even during our evaluation. And ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate, I know for some evaluations, they've gone on and on and on, but we are just trying to ensure compliance. But that declaration helps us understand that this bidder is together with us along the evaluation process, and that even when we issue the contract to them, hopefully to each of you sitting in this room, you will be able to sign. Because again, it will be an offense if you give us a proposal and you will not be able to sign. And that is why we have that bid securing declaration. Now, I've belabored this point because in our proposals, we request you to date when that bid securing declaration will expire. And those dates are very clear in the bidding document. So sometimes we are very appalled when we receive proposals that have bid securing declarations that are dated either before, after may not be so much of a problem, but before the date that we have requested you in the proposal. Again, that will be an issue of non-compliance, because again, we cannot write back to you to explain or to clarify, because I know most of the bidders here are very conversant with clarifications that we make as a procuring and disposing entity. But in such a scenario, we cannot clarify whether you meant the date that we wanted in the bidding document or the date that you've given us on that declaration. So it is important that as we go along, please let's mind these things. Let's mind these things. These are pass or fails. So pass or fails means even before we touch your technical, you're already off the grid and we are moving with other people who have been compliant. Maybe other legal concerns that we want to highlight in this conference are about the contracting stage. So we are at the point where you have successfully got your bid. You've got an award for a contract. And we are now having issues as now legal department as we draft the document, and we are helping you turn around this contract as soon as possible, because we all understand as you bid for the work, number one, you're hopeful that you'll get it, but number two, probably you've taken out some financial considerations and you want to maybe recoup the money. But ultimately, you want to get the contract as soon as possible. So sometimes you have seen instances where we've given the providers some of these documents and they have sat on them for quite a while. When you do that, it becomes very difficult for all of us, because we have that bid securing declaration that we are working against, but also in terms of compliance with procurement, we have turnaround times that we need to turn around that contract. So please don't be caught on the wrong side of the law. And our procedures, if we give you some of these contracts and you're just putting in input 1 or 2, spare some time with your teams and give us these contracts as soon as possible. I think the other issue was about unauthorized persons, and as I've said, it is important for the power of attorney to be very clear, because it is what we shall use when you're signing the contract. You're signing the amendments to the contract, if any, or if you have any change orders. It is clear that it's going to cover that entire process. Again, that's another issue on power of attorney. We are going to get to the slide in a minute. The other is missing board resolutions. For some of these I would say procurements, but I think mostly for the joint ventures, we require that we have authority from the company that you actually, that the company has decided to partner with Unoc. And how does a company make such a decision? It has to be through a board of directors, and we'll have a resolution coming out of that. So we have to read the finer detail of the print. Where it requires that you have a board resolution, please have it, and properly signed, ladies and gentlemen. It is very sad to get a board resolution that is signed by only one director. It becomes difficult for us to move on that board resolution, even if it says all the other niceties, this company should contract with this person, but if it's not properly signed, it will be difficult. I guess I'm giving some business to the lawyers in the house. I should be hearing claps for the lawyers in the house. Maybe they're not there. I know they are there. Okay, so please consult your legal counsel on some of these issues. The other is altered, inconsistent, or expired company documents. That one I've already emphasized the issue of expiry. Some people give us trade licenses that are expired. It becomes difficult to move on those particular documents. Then lack of disclosure of the real beneficial owners. Now, by law, we are required to disclose who the ultimate beneficial owner is for a company, and it's also now a prerequisite for us as Unoc. So we have a form that you need to fill out and file at URSB. If you have not yet filled some of those forms, please go and fill them. That is Form 1A that you need to fill out, who the ultimate beneficial owners are. And ultimate beneficial ownership has been defined as an individual who ultimately is the beneficiary of the dividends that are coming out of that company. So please fill out some of these forms in time so that you can get ready. The last one is failure to declare or address any conflict of interest. We generally want to shy away from conflicts of interest, but if you feel that there is any conflict in terms of your submission, please do declare it, because we carry out investigations both internally with our staff and with the people that we partner with. And if we've not had a declaration at any one point before award of contract, even after award of contract, ladies and gentlemen, you stand a very high chance of having that contract being cancelled on the basis of compliance. I want to move to the issue of powers of attorney, and it's very critical that we all pay attention, because it's one thing to trust someone else to draft this document for you and file it. It's another when your particular proposal is submitted and it is rejected on the basis of something of this nature, on the basis of powers of attorney, which you yourself can learn today. Me and you, we can learn how to ensure that this document is properly signed. And as I've already said, about 3/4 of the contracts that we receive, we have issues with these powers of attorney. And we have to do a back and forth, which is very, very unnecessary for us. So one of the issues is that a power of attorney is being issued by a particular company, and it's giving powers to an individual to, number one, either submit the proposal and sign that proposal, number two, negotiate that contract, and even sign the document. So the three elements have to be there. The submission, that is you sign the proposal, the negotiation, if any, if it arises, and being able to give clarifications, etc. And the third one, which is most important for us as legal, is the person must be able to have authority to execute the contracts. That's in my number 2. So one, it must be issued to a specific person. So sometimes you can issue to a person, you can issue to 2 people, but we want to understand who has the authority to sign the contract. Number 2, it should cover the authority. In other words, it should state that this person has been given the authority. Sometimes you find a document that has named the person, but you're wondering, what power has this person been given? What are they authorized to do? Okay? What are they going to do with Unoc? So we struggle, especially when we are drafting the contracts and we want to sign the contracts. You find a problem that the power of attorney is not talking about signature. If it is all-encompassing, it is okay. But where you go down to specify maybe to sign a proposal only, or maybe negotiate and stop there, we'll then have problems at contract signing with you. The third one is it must remain valid until contract execution. Okay, so some people give powers of attorney, limited powers of attorney, maybe just to submit a proposal. But when it comes to execution, you don't have powers. Or some people give powers for a limited time. You may sign a power of attorney that says maybe our managing director is going to sign this contract, and this, down there's a line that says it's valid for a period of 1 year. And you need to appreciate some of our procurement processes might take a bit longer than others, and probably this power of attorney has lapsed. We will come back to you on that angle. So what do we advise? We advise that you make it a bit more general. It can cover the procurement process until contract signing, okay? But what that would mean is that at the point of change orders, if you want to amend the contract, you will still have to renew either that power of attorney or issue another power of attorney. Then the other issue is it must be issued by the entity that is submitting the bid. It should not be under a trade name or a management company. You're issuing a power of attorney as maybe X Limited, and yet the bid is by X Limited, but the power of attorney that you're giving to us is taken out by X Holding Limited. That element of holding changes the entire narrative. It's not the same company. We need to understand that. And then we need to confirm that the power of attorney is properly signed, commissioned, and registered. So the element of signing, and we want to repeat it here, and for you, it is a privilege because you're here, is that signing the power of attorney requires either 2 directors or a director and a company secretary. Sometimes you get it and it has only 1 director, or it is signed by only the company secretary, or it's taken out by the head legal of the company. It becomes a bit difficult. Commissioned, we need to commission this. This is by lawyers who have over 3 years of experience and have applied and have been confirmed as commissioner of oaths, or notarized in case it is a foreign entity. Registration is at URSB. We register documents. So we encourage you to register your power of attorneys and give them to us once they are registered. So as we continue this conversation, I don't want to say come to the close, but as we continue the conversation, there are a couple of things that have come through from the comments, and we've been able to take down the notes. We want to encourage you to listen in to these key takeaways. One of them is to ensure that you ensure correct legal documentation, and the legal department today has gone into depth about the kind of documentation that would expect, but I'm going to give you what our due diligence process looks like. What are the documents that we need to see as far as due diligence is concerned? That is going to be in a bit, but for now, in terms of correct legal documentation, we're looking at certificates, licenses, MEMATs, and for joint ventures, we're looking at that joint venture agreement. We want to understand what kind of arrangement do you have, who has what shareholding, and it becomes difficult to move if you submit to us documents that don't have that joint venture agreement. We'll still come back to you. You're lucky. You'll get a clarification. However, it is advisable that you get it all right. Valid powers of attorney, I've already spoken about that, and I hope we have been writing about what we need to have on our powers of attorney. The third one is to prepare for rigorous due diligence. When it comes to procurements, we are already asking you for the documents. We are certain that you've given us all the documents. But when it comes to partnerships, and we have mentioned a couple of opportunities as far as partnerships are concerned. Right now, for the Kasturban contract area, we are looking for a partner. We know that whom we can invest in that particular block. We have so many other opportunities coming up. KIP, so many questions have been coming up on KIP. But as you ask these questions and you keep yourself technically sound, what other things can you have in place so that you can be able to hit the ground running once those opportunities come up? So in terms of due diligence, we have about 4 or 5 tiers that I'm going to mention, and I encourage you, for those who can, you can just take this down, and later on through our different forums, our national content team can distribute the written material. So we're looking at incorporation information. So your certificate of incorporation is very important. Or if you have registration outside Uganda, it is important. But one, that registration outside Uganda must be notarized. Yeah, it must be notarized because it is important for us to have an extra layer of caution, who is the notary public from the foreign entity, from a foreign country. The other is a joint venture agreement, which I've already mentioned. We're also looking at tax clearance certificates. Those are your TCCs. We're looking at NSSF certificates, URSB annual returns, and we want the updated ones. If these particular projects are important for you, please prepare the annual returns for the last 3 previous years. Certify your MEMATs, Memorandum and Articles of Association, and then ensure that you have a bank that you relate with to always have that reference letter as soon as possible, because you know we don't have, you may not have a big window to get this reference letter. So have good relations with the banks to ensure that you can get a reference letter as soon as you receive the proposals. Prepare your organizational chart. Sometimes we receive documents, but we don't know how the company is structured, and then even your shareholding structure, as well as the forms I mentioned, Form 1 for beneficial ownership, Form 1 in. Then in terms of compliance, we are looking at those licenses, certificates. We are also looking at, of course, the NSD registration. We cannot emphasize that. We are looking at policies. And I pause here to just inform you that you need to carefully look at the bidding document and see what policies you need to have in place. Critical are really HSE policies. Those ones are critical. HR policies, and the other policies that we have seen, compliance and ethics. As a very compliant company, we have, again, zero tolerance to non-compliance and ethics. So it would be good to get into relations with companies that have these policies in place. And for those who understand the trends, we have ESG coming on board. So have a policy in place on that nature. Understand the different trends and have these policies in place. The other issue that we'll look at in terms of due diligence, we're going to look at, of course, now technical capacity. That one is a sure deal, and in most cases it takes about 70% when it comes to evaluations. So what is your ability to undertake the specific task or project? If it's highly specialized, as has been mentioned, you can have joint venture partnerships in that particular field. We're going to review the relevant experience of the company. Relevant experience means we are going to require you to tell us who you've worked with. And for this one, I must emphasize, we go ahead and do due diligence. So sometimes when you give us documents, maybe contracts, and you're saying you've worked with a particular person, we shall first of all check that if this company is registered. Is it an actual company at URSB? That's number one. Number two, if they exist, we will write to them and get a confirmation that they actually exist. So the process of getting into partnerships is very, very critical. We take it very seriously, and we do very rigorous quality checks and background checks. So the contracts, who have you partnered with? And then we also look at the technical qualifications of your team. So you're looking at your key personnel that you're giving us in terms of certifications, licenses, accreditations, and for the individuals, we shall review the qualifications again for the key personnel. If it's a works or service contract, we're going to look at the equipment and the resources that you have, the technology, the innovation. There was a question on innovation. We're going to look at the efforts that you've taken. There must be some efforts, yeah, because we're looking at times are changing, and one of our core values as a company is innovation. We want to integrate and partner with companies that are aligned with our values. And then also your capacity to take on additional resources is also critical. As far as physical due diligence is concerned, we do carry out two types of physical due diligences. We do the physical checks. That is literally physically going to your office premises where that is a requirement. And we also look at your references. We will write to the different authorities or the regulators that regulate your particular industry. But of course, key to note, we'll write to URSB, URA. We are also going to write to PAU if you're regulated. If you're saying that you're registered on the NSD, we will write to PAU to confirm this. So those are some of the things that we would want to speak with. Yes, there may be the lastly is dispute resolution. For those who have any ongoing disputes, I would encourage that you declare that before we go to the due diligence process. You can declare that in the information so that we don't have any issues towards the end. And at that point, what that helps us do as a legal team is to assess whether this is a legal risk that we can take on, the fact that you have a dispute either ongoing or is threatened. We assess whether we can take on that particular risk, how it affects your financial standing, and whether and the stage at which it is. So we're going to check the local courts here. We're going to check arbitration centers for those ones that have published cases, so that we can ensure that we are dealing with people who are not in that kind of situation, in a dispute situation. Or if they are in disputes, that they're being managed appropriately. That's what we want to know. In terms of key takeaways, I did promise that we will close off by giving you some of the things that you need to look out for. These are things that we have already spoken about, but I think key for us, the documents must be complete. And we've talked about the entity name, signatories, and the documents that have been submitted. They must be legal, they must be valid, and they must be compliant. Timeliness, late submissions will not be allowed. I want to assure you that when it comes to at least the procurement, very, very punctual. Whether upstream, whether our normal PPDA, we are very punctual. When we say 5 p.m., it is 5 p.m. So look out for that finer details. And of course now, timeliness will not matter. No matter how good your proposal is. If you're late, you're late. So please let's try to be in time for some of these submissions. And then integrity is also one of our core values. Be open and declare any conflicts of interest. We will take it at heart, or we'll take it in good faith, that you'd want for us to have an open relationship. We'll assess whatever conflict it is, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to get back to you with feedback. The last one is compliance with all regulatory laws and procedures regarding the onboarding process. We've had the privilege today of listening in on what the due diligence requires, what the due diligence process is all about, and what are the requirements on your side. We can have deeper conversations regarding this, but as promised, and if it's something that members are interested in, we can get a write-up on these due diligence requirements. Overall, I want to say that Unoc is excited to partner with you. Unoc is excited to give you these collaborations. We are excited to ensure that you are part of the oil and gas journey. Our first oil is expected next year in July, and we really, really hope that you are part of the journey. And that is why we have taken the time to come out and explain to you some of these issues that we have seen recurring in some of the evaluations that we undertake, and ensure that even as you submit your documentation, it is proper, and it is not because of incomplete submissions or things that you could have avoided, that you're going to miss a contract. And again, we are saying your success with Unoc starts with doing it right. You have to document accurately, ensure timely submissions, and a clear delegation of authority through the powers of attorney. Be prepared, be compliant, and be competitive. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my presentation as far as legal is concerned, and we are extremely happy to hear from you. But before I take leave, there was a question on whether women are considered by Unoc in terms of opportunities for oil and gas. I want to assure you that through the presentations, we have talked about competitiveness. As far as procurement are concerned, we do carry out competitive partner selection. Whether it's procurement, whether it's joint venture, it is competitive. So we want to encourage the women to, first of all, put their best foot forward. It is a very competitive process. Maybe what I would pose to say that Unoc has gone ahead to take initiative. We do have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, which is the DEI strategy, where we are advancing issues of gender equality. And we have a DEI committee that has a very brilliant idea that we came up with, which is Women in Energy and Extractives Network. And it's basically a forum that brings together the women in the industry, yourselves here, and the men, because we cannot do without you. So the forum is really open to everyone who is interested in getting part in WIN, which is Women in Energy and Extractives Network, which was pioneered by Unoc, but now has been pushed forward for the entire industry. That platform is for networks, it's for collaborations, it's for information gathering, leadership, as well as mentorship. So that is my presentation, and we are open to taking questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Let's give her a bigger hand of. Thank you. So now that we've heard about the legal requirements, I'm going to talk briefly about, we've talked throughout comes to collaboration is, it's hard to identify who can you trust, who won't rob me, who won't go behind my back and take the business after we've agreed we are going to work together. So we are going to briefly go about what are some of those things that you need to do in order to identify the right partner. What should you do before you collaborate? So in this particular presentation, the first thing that you need to really look at is you need to do your due diligence. Like there was a question earlier where someone noted that the authority can sometimes reject your joint venture, you put effort. But the key thing, part of due diligence is you need to be able to support each other in delivering the kind of scope that you're going to do. So for example, if I am a national content person and I want to partner with a surgeon to take out a surgery on you, how many of you would be willing to be in that surgery room where I'm the one assisting instead of a nurse? I don't think many of us would take the chance. So similarly, when you're looking for a partnership, it has to be that you bring something to the table and the other party also brings something to the table. So do your due diligence. Is this a valid company? Do they have an office? We have companies that have offices that are as mobile as they are. When you say we are going to come and check where your office is located, they give a call quickly to one of the buildings in town, put for me my company name, and getting into most cases targeted. We are not going to get into a joint venture where we do everything. If you want catering, we are here. If you want logistics, we are here. So it has to be targeted to a particular scope of work. So what is it that you're partnering to do? We've gone through a number of opportunities today. When you identify an opportunity, then depending on that scope, you use that to identify who can I partner with to deliver this scope. Because, and it should be very clear what are our objectives as a joint venture, what are we working together to achieve. Then it should also clearly specify what role each of us is going to play. If we are going to collaborate, you're going to bring the cars, I'm going to bring the drivers. So it should be very clear from the beginning what role each party is going to play. So as you negotiate your joint venture agreement, please ensure that the scope is clear. For us, we bring this to the table because it helps you to avoid conflicts later on in the journey. Then the third element you need to look at and be very specific about is what is the structure of your joint venture? How are you going to be structured? Who is going to be the other ones who decide who, which check, which negotiations to enter, which ones not to enter, they are the ones who get paid. It has to be very clear that you have a governance structure where you actively participate. So if you've created a board that is going to run the joint venture, maybe you ensure that you have representation on that board. Also, your partner has representation so that when it comes to decision making, you make them as a partner. Are we together? Then the third element which most people leave out is the element of dispute resolution. Now, at the beginning, like any relationship, everything is rosy. Eh? You're dreaming about the millions you're going to make together. You're dreaming about how well things are going to go. But at the beginning, you also have to look forward and say, in the event that we disagree in future, how are we going to go about it? And have a clear mechanism of when we disagree, these are the steps we are going to take. We're going to get an independent party, and we talk about this from an independent view, because some of us will all have our interests, and we try to mediate. Now, in many cases where this has not happened, you end up either stressing someone who has given you business, because they gave it to you as a joint venture, then now only one party is communicating and the other party is going behind the other one and saying, our partner, have you paid him? No, because he's not paying us. So we need to be very deliberate. Right from the start, be clear about how will you resolve disputes when they arise, and have a way to escalate them. Now, I've also seen joint venture agreements where you agree with a partner. You've maybe gotten a partner from China, and you're working together. Then in the dispute resolution mechanism, you have said we are going to work in terms and conditions to the laws of China. Now, you are executing a project in Uganda. You will probably never have any scope done in China. But you've signed an agreement that in case we have a challenge, we are going to refer to the Chinese laws. So chances are, in this scenario, if you get into a situation, you're going to have a challenge, because you may have to fly to China to get a Chinese lawyer. Really, you have put yourself in a jam. Eh? So as you negotiate, you need to also consider what are the jurisdictions for what it is that you're going to do. Then, especially for the international collaborations, you have to be cognizant of the culture differences and the different obligations in those jurisdictions. So we all have different cultures, eh? And I'll give you an example. In some countries, they write from the left to the right, others from this side to the other side. Are we together? Now, if you go into a relationship and you're not cognizant of the differences in culture, there's likely to be clashes over things as small as how you greet. In certain cultures, men do not shake women's hands. Now, you've gotten a partner and they've come to a meeting with their wife, and the first thing you do, you run and you want to shake the wife's hand. That may be the end of the partnership. And you'll be wondering, but what did I do? What did I do? But you were not cognizant of the differences in culture. So you need to pay attention to even the small details, because those have an impact. I've seen people choose not to get into a partnership just because of how, when we went to dinner, this person kept ordering every wine. Took white wine, took red wine, took beer. And that is the reason for, yes, you're technically brilliant and all these things, but that says something about you because of where the culture of the person you're dealing with comes from. Are we together? So do your research, do backgrounds, understand the people I'm going to deal with, what are the things that they consider taboos. Because you may be dealing, for example, with someone from a Muslim country and they're Muslim. But because you like a certain kind of food, when they come, you're very excited, you say, let's go to dinner, and you're ordering a whole plate of what you like, which they don't eat. How do you think this relationship is going to go forward? So be cognizant of those cultural clashes and the differences and respect them. Then you need to get independent advice. Most of us, when we have made it a bit in business, we are the expert. We don't need anyone to advise us. I started this business when there was nothing. Now we have reached 1 billion shillings. How can you advise me? Please. there's no one who knows everything. So similarly, leverage expert advice. If you're getting into a contract that is going to determine how you're going to earn and share millions of dollars, please hire the relevant experts to advise you on how you've structured the agreement, what is there that is likely to bite you and what won't bite you. Do these things early. And then lastly, and most importantly, continuously communicate. Some of us be in joint ventures and we have no mechanism whatsoever of how to communicate to the other party. But we are working together. Then those are the scenarios where you keep one person writes to the contractor who has given you business. So you say there's a meeting. Then the person is telling you, we've already had this meeting which you're asking about. But because your communication as a joint venture is broken, and usually that is the cause of the end of all things. Because if you can't communicate, then you can't work together efficiently. So as you're in the room, one of the core things to do is to network. And we are hoping that these networks lead to be able to collaborate and work together. Now, sometimes in the room here, you have people who are potential business partners, but also potential contractors. You may have different services that you need where the best person to give you that service is in this room. So I'd like to encourage that even after this, we really get to know each other, get to appreciate who is in the room, what do they do, how can you leverage these relationships? Because that's the whole point of these engagements. If we come, we sit in our seat, then after listening, you get up and you go. You won't have really gotten everything you can get out of this session. So with those few words, I'm going to now get into our Q&A. We have some questions here, but I'm going to request that we take a round of 5 questions, like we did previously, and then we'll respond to those questions along with the ones that I have received here. So those of you who have a question that you have not written, you can put up your hand and then the microphone will come to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Williams from Softtech Integrated Africa Limited, also Conch Gas Limited. It's an LPG gas company. Yes, I've been in the industry for some time, and my question, or maybe clarification, I would need it from Madam Hawa. It's about sometimes you fulfill all the legal requirements and you're still thrown out on the same, even when you have them. Where I come from, recently at one of my entities, Conch Gas, there was a call of tender, of which we first went through the first stages of PQQ. Of course, PQQ is where you submit all the requirements, legal requirements, all the documentation and everything, experience and all that. We went through the PQQ. 3 companies were selected out from the PQQ. They issued out tender documents. The tender documents came maybe at the start of the year. And we submitted in the tenders and everything, the bids and all that. So to take it, the selections went on and all that. Then the company, it was time to do the due diligence on the companies. This particular tender was one of the IOCs wanted a company to supply industrial gases, nitrogen and all those other industrial gases. But then it required them having a filling plant. Now, for you to qualify and get a filling plant, a filling station, you have to have gone through all the requirements of Ministry of Energy, NEMA, EIAs and all that, social impact on the community, where it's located. We have all those documents, and they're not way back, they are recent documents. So we have this IOC visit our plant, and then they end up making a report that its location is not favorable. But remember, this is our filling plant where we fill our cylinders from, and also we fill for other companies, because we do distribute LPG. And we are told that the location isn't favorable. The location, just a minimum of it is, the plant should be 200 meters, the filling plant 200 meters from the neighborhood, and we are very compliant. But then they went on to say that our location doesn't suit, yet we have all the EIAs and everything and all the regulatory requirements. So it's where I can say, of course, definitely we were thrown out. As a person who has been in the industry, I know the first place to run to would be PAU contest. But then for how long shall we keep doing this? I mean, we have done it over and over. So some of us, our faces are so common at the body. You know, it will be against our company. Say, every time it's them. What challenges do they have every time they have to come here and report? So sometimes you fulfill all the legal requirements, and then maybe a ship moved, it docked off, but then they don't want to. So please, in this situation, what can an entity do, a local company like mine do? Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you very much. I'm Reverend Kasira Unoc from Mubende for Kasira Holdings. I'm only requesting that since we have registered and we have got our emails, we cannot know which company is of my interest. Is it possible for you, particularly in this one, because we are many and we are from different companies, through our emails, you send us a list of those who have participated so that we can get their contact and the areas of operation. I think that way we can really realize. My second observation is, on ECOP. ECOP, you are handling people in 10 districts. By the time you leave, I would love to see that the livelihood of those people, particularly a project-affected person, has completely changed to better. I would request two things. There are two proposals which came out here, that around the camps, you can engage the community and those people, small enterprises and larger companies, to come together and see how they can provide what is needed. Fantastic. The second one is also trying to build up the capacities of the smallholder companies, because these larger companies don't reach the masses, but we reach there. It is surprising at this particular moment to go to Mbende and find tomatoes rotting in markets. Really, tomatoes are very delicious. It's a very delicious food. And we have so many projects going on. Tilenga, where? Don't you people want tomatoes? How can we avail these tomatoes, the onions, the potatoes, matoke, rich Tilenga, rich in Piji, rich where? How can we? It's very important. I'm taking time? Okay, thank you very much. She has stopped me.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My name is Rita Bukenya from Ethereal Limited. We are transport services providers. Mine is a kind request about, I think, something Madame Hawa mentioned, and that was that you do not have time to give feedback to organizations, I think, about their tenders. I request that you give us feedback because I do not know how many of us would be here if, for example, we had gone through school and been told you've passed or you've failed, but you don't get your papers back, so you do not know why you passed or why you failed. That is to help us in continuous improvement and also to rule out issues of human error. For example, we've had cases of organizations telling us maybe we submitted an expired license only to go back to the process and realize they requested for tenders, let's say in December, our license was valid and we submitted. But by the time they got around to doing the evaluation process, maybe they got it done in March, and then they tell you your license was expired. But when we get back to them with the feedback that no, at the time we submitted, our documentation was valid, then they get us pre-qualified. So my request is that you always let us know why we've passed, or especially why we have not gone through, so that it helps us with our continuous improvement to know where we are wanting and improve our systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Tibanda Jani Sasha is my name, and I work with Pezzle Cornery Consulting Limited. I'd just like to inquire if there are frameworks or standard procedures for pre-qualification that consulting firms have to go through before being considered for engagements with Unoc. Understanding this would help a firm like ours better position ourselves to leverage opportunities with a national oil company. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So let's have one more and then we can respond.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm called Ivas Tumhere from Pamoja Logistics. My concern is about our local companies. Actually, the thing that has made me come today, I have a concern. Recently, like 2 weeks back, a Chinese company contacted me. They wanted a joint venture with my company. Said they allowed. But they only brought for me a document to sign. Can you imagine? I asked, we have not met, we have not talked on terms and conditions. How do you bring for me a legal document to sign? And on signing, I was just to sign on the documents and manage the signing. No, managing the Unoc systems. Stop on the systems and then know which tenders are there. Can you imagine? You use my company, I'm a local supplier, and I stop on that. How are we protected? The local companies, you legal team, when you're evaluating, how are we protected? You're telling us joint ventures, are we safe? Sincerely speaking, are we safe? How can you come that you're what? They call them what? Investors. You are an investor, you just want to use me. Can you really protect us? In that if it is a joint venture, how am I gaining as a local company? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll actually start with that very last question. I think it's a common occurrence actually. And one of the reasons why the law requires that for foreign companies and local companies, those joint venture agreements have to be submitted to the Petroleum Authority for review and approval. That is one of the most common reasons. Because when the authority reviews those joint ventures, usually they are able to identify that there's a likelihood that the local party will not benefit in this arrangement. So that is one of the bases for which companies are rejected for joint venture partnerships. Because where there is no value to the Ugandan company, it's rejected. But also, as Ugandan companies, when you're faced with a scenario like this, we have to know that there are some opportunities which we have to let go. Are we together? Because most of the times we are very happy, there's an opportunity, I'm going to participate. So whatever they bring you to sign, you're signing. The next
thing is okay. When it comes to the price, we normally have someone who is having the lowest price, okay? And the law tells us, as far as national content is concerned, if you have 2 bidders, maybe one is higher than the other, maybe at 5%, I'm correct? Yes, and the other person who is a bit lower by the averagely of 5 marks has better national content plan than you. They will take that particular contract. So mine is to understand the criteria, but what I hear from the feedback is, from the questions, is to understand what is the feedback, where have I gone wrong? And I want to assure you that Unoc is open to giving you that communication. If it's an issue of your documentation, please write to us. We should be able to tell you what exactly happened. And ladies and gentlemen, there are providers and partners who write to us. Yes, as a company, because of the procurement principles, one of them is transparency. We're going to tell you exactly what happened and even guide you if you go to that length on what best can be done. And we need to appreciate that some of those key lessons come from forums of this nature. I want to challenge you, each and every one of you. You can inform us what are those critical things that we've either missed out today or have been repetitively happening that we need to address in the next supplier development workshops. So we have a fully fledged national content team. Please inform us of the things that are repetitive and we need to address. So these are the 2 open engagement channels. One is through forums of this nature. The other is through the feedback. We do give feedback in terms of the communications. But I also want to assure you that the law requires that that best evaluated bidder form, the BEB form, we have to inform bidders about why they were not able to get that particular contract. And even as we open the bids after the submission, on the date of opening, we read out the company and we even read out the prices. So we are transparent, so that you know that even as you submitted, X has given this price, Y has given this price. So it is transparent. It is transparent. So to your question, it's an issue of feedback. Let's have open engagement. Please write to us. We should be able to give you that feedback because we have done it before for other providers. We do not isolate. We are a very transparent company. The other one is through the open engagements like one of this nature. Please give us more of those topics that you want to see us talking about in forums of this nature. And I hope yourself and Madame Bukenya, who is also my namesake, have been ably answered. There was also a question on sharing the list from today's participation. Peter, I think you can confirm that we have issues of confidentiality. Sharing this information may be a breach. And some of you, we don't know what you might use this information for. The gentleman has said that you want to use the information for partnerships, but we don't all have the same kind of interests. So we want to keep this information confidential. And but we do have a website, the NSD. The NSD has information about the different people who have been registered and can partake in the different services. It actually has the name of the company and the services for which they have registered. So please visit the website. You should be able to have a better understanding of which companies have been listed there under. I'll now hand over to my colleague to address the rest of the questions.
Thank you, Howard. Now the gentleman about, I was espoused on my plant was disqualified, its location, yet we have all the ministry requirements. Now, I'll just give you an insight. What happens is a user department wants a certain facility or service. So they tell PDU, we need this. Okay? Let's use IT. IT department wants laptops, and they say, we want these specifications. PDU processes the bid and tells people, bring in your bids. Okay? Now, when you bring in your bids and the different specifications you have. The user goes, PDU gives them to the user, and user look through who really has met, who has the best. Now, what could have happened is, I asked you, was it a competitive bid? That yes, there were so many people or more companies that put in their bids together with you. He's saying that he was disqualified because his plant, he was told, was not in a good location. It simply means that someone had a plant in a better location. That's the reason why it's competitive, okay? The only answer is that because you are more than one company, the other company had the same requirements with a better location, that probably the user said, this location is better than this one. Not to mean that yours can't work on another day, but maybe the other, that's why it's competitive in nature, okay? You feel like you've done everything, but somebody's a niche higher or better than you. That's the best answer I can really give this gentleman. The other question was, I think I also espoused on closure. You do not tell us some lady asked, you do not give us the reasons why we've failed in the bid. Now, once we give out the BEB notice and we tell you that such and such a company has taken the bid, if you feel you want more reason to know why did I fail, please, you have to write to the PDU, to us, and ask for a debrief. Okay, why did my company fail? So that will give you a debrief to us, and then we can give you a debrief on why your company failed, so that you can put some things right for future purposes. Lastly, someone asked, what standard procedures or documents that that companies should have to, I think, harness Unoc opportunities? To answer her, first of all, you should know what your company does, okay? Some people have companies that they think will do everything. When you see a bid for IT, you think you can put, because there are computers, you can get somewhere. When you see a bid for food, you think you can access food, and you know, first of all, understand, what does your company do? What exactly does my company do? Now, what does Unoc want? Okay? In their bid documents, what have they asked for? Is it IT services? Is it cleaning services? If I have a company, general company, and your company is general, you think I can hire people to go and clean, it will not apply that way. You should know, what exactly does my company offer? Then what does the Unoc want? Now, once your company has what Unoc wants, then look at what we've been discussing, okay? Is it a registered company? Do I have the capacity to deliver, the financial capacity? Do I have my documents right, my legal documents right? Do I have powers of attorney? Lastly, pay attention to the bid documents, to the detail, okay? Exactly what is needed should be provided. If the power of attorney is needed, make sure it's there. If all the documents that she discussed, make sure that everything is met. I think I've also answered. So pay attention to the detail, know what your company has to offer and what Unoc wants, so that you make sure you answer to that question that Unoc is asking, exactly that question, so that it doesn't look like you're trying to fidget to get this contract your way, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I'm going to also go through some of the questions that have come. There's a question from Mr. Joseph Biaruhanga about exemptions on the different projects. So yes, there are some exemptions and under the different projects, but you have to access these exemptions through the licensee. So you have, if you have a contract, say with ECOP, then you write to ECOP so that ECOP can be able to submit your request for that exemption. Because there has to be proof that indeed what you're bringing in is intended to be used on an oil and gas project. So it doesn't open that as long as I'm subcontracting, I can bring everything and they benefit from the exemption. So it has to be very clear. Then there was a question around what are we doing to ensure that SMEs are supported to supply the oil and gas sector, because a number of companies have started to self-perform. I think this is supposed to be by the regulator, but I can mention that there are efforts that have been put in place to support capacity building of smaller companies. And there have been efforts as well made to unbundle the different contracts so that they are smaller packages which allow for Ugandan participation. So these are some of the efforts that have been done, and we've been collaborating with the authority to try as much as possible. We get instructions that we should unbundle as much as possible so that we give Ugandans an opportunity to participate in projects that would otherwise be very big and out of scope. Then someone asked a question around how we can be able to partner to deliver work in the communities. I think we can be able to, we have a corporate affairs unit in Unoc, which is responsible for our corporate social responsibility project. So if you have a project that you are running that relates to social security, social responsibility, you can be able to write a concept and you address it to our CEO and deliver it to our office so that the team can be able to assess whether we can be able to collaborate with you on implementation of these CSR initiatives. And we've collaborated with a number of companies that had initiatives that we felt were well aligned with our mission and what we want to achieve. Then someone asked, can you contract a company to provide either 2 or more services in the oil and gas sector? Yes. Provided you have the technical capacity and the financial resources to be able to deliver. There are companies that offer more than one service and they are competent at both. So it is possible for you to be able to qualify to provide goods and services to Unoc in more than one particular element. Then there was a question around what opportunities are there for financial institutions like banks interested in supporting the growth. So we work hand in hand with different banks to provide financing to local SMEs, especially those that have gotten contracts in the oil and gas sector. So if you're a financial institution and you're looking at who are those suppliers, because we usually give suppliers who require financial facilities, communication, we advise them that there are this number of banks that are willing to support, and we redirect those people to you. And then someone asked about 32,000 jobs that were mentioned earlier and how we are going to support youths to participate and whether the process is transparent and there's accountability. So I'd like to speak for the Uganda National Oil Company. Our processes for recruitment are very open and very transparent. So we, of course, want to attract the very best talent, but ensure that we do that in line with the requirements of the law. So we give fair competition to all Ugandans to participate, because in our recruitment, we give priority to Ugandans, and we only consider expatriates where there is no available local talent. Then someone asked that you can get a framework contract and get no call of order until it expires. Now, this is an element where we may need to engage with the procurement team so that you find out why is it that I have a framework contract and there is not a single call of order. Could it be my pricing? What is the challenge? So that you can get this feedback, and if there is an issue around maybe the services, or so that you can be able to address that. Because if you've managed to get all the way to having a contract, ideally you should be able to provide goods and services, because you pass the technical requirements, you pass the financial, and you are pre-qualified. So this is something that you may need to engage with the procurement team to advise on what could be the challenge. Then someone asked, how long does it take to sign a contract after being selected as the best evaluated bidder? I think it depends on the nature of contract. There are contracts that are wanted very quickly, so the signing takes place immediately, because some of the projects happen after a certain project has ended. So sometimes the delay could be that a preceding requirement has not yet been concluded for you to be able to take on your scope. But continue to engage so that we can be able to complete the process so that you can start on your project. Then someone talked about that we require that people know valid tenders and adverts and which sites. So I'd like to recommend that if you're looking at tenders, visit the official websites for the Uganda National Oil Company. If you're looking at ECOP tenders, visit the ECOP website. If you're looking at Total, look at the Total website. And also, these have also been shared with the Industry Enhancement Center, so you'll also find them there. But try as much as possible to look at the credible sites where these companies are actually the ones posting the jobs and tenders. Then finally, how will budget support, are there specific mechanisms to finance budget within, to facilitate partnerships? So we make efforts to identify partners and then to show that we work in joint venture partnerships. And we usually have mechanisms in-house of how we try to find the relevant partners. So we do our best to make sure that we identify the right people to work with on our projects. And if you feel you're one of those partners, please do approach us. We are open to working with you. So at this point, I'm going to request, I think this is a good time for us to close. And I don't want to be the one standing between you and lunch. So at this point, I'm going to invite our General Manager Upstream to give us the closing remarks. Please give a hand clap to Phil.
Good afternoon, everyone. The energy level has gone very low. Good afternoon. Thank you, and thank you for staying on up to now. My name is Philip Sobita, and like Peter already introduced me, I'm the General Manager for Upstream Business. But I'm standing here on behalf of our CEO that many of you know, who was unable to make it to be with you here and interact with you. Certainly, she's very passionate about this workshop because of how important you are as a supplier community for the success of implementation of Unoc's projects. But she has asked me to step in for her, and I'll try to do just that. Hopefully I'll fit in the very big shoes that I now have to fit in. So, representatives from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, I see Engineer Sherura here, who has been quite quiet. Representative from the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, Madam Esther. Representatives from our joint venture partners, Unoc, ECOP Limited, Total Energies, who are here with us. Representatives from our partner banks, who are here with us. Representatives from the Stanbic incubator that we work quite a lot with. Representatives from the representative from the Industry Enhancement Center, who is here with us. Representatives from the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, who are here. The EDs and the MDs and representatives of the supplier communities that are present here. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to
observe all protocols and make sure that I've not missed out on anyone. A very good afternoon to all of you. I want to say that the work I have is very difficult because I stand between you and your lunch. And Peter was very clever to sneak out and leave me in that gap. But also, I also want to take it that it's very easy because I'm just coming to close. All the discussions are done. But allow me just to say a few words that our CEO had wanted to share with you as we close this workshop. So on behalf of Uganda National Oil Company, I want to thank all of you in your various capacities for your participation in today's supplier development workshop for the Kasurubani contract area, which we've held under the theme Pathways to Participate in Unoc's Oil and Gas Projects. Unoc, as a national company, has continued to invest in supplier development workshops of this nature to leverage on the opportunities that we see this workshop offers to improve the supply chain for our operations. So in this regard, I just want to again remind all of us in this workshop today, especially those that are here for the first time, that on a quarterly basis, we deliberately invest to hold this supplier development workshop, to disseminate information relating to our projects, but also to highlight opportunities that are available for supplies of goods, works, and services in all our projects. In this workshop, we have since morning provided updates on the oil and gas projects in the country, across the entire petroleum value chain. And most importantly, I think you will all agree that we have shared with you opportunities for supply of goods, works, and services that are available in the projects that we have interest in as a national company, namely Kasurubani contract area, the Kabalega Industrial Park, the refinery project, downstream storage terminals, and petroleum product trading. So we hope that this information will help you to effectively explore the opportunities that we offer as a company, and also to help you offer services to our various operations. So in order for Unoc to have an efficient project execution across all our projects, like I said, we endeavor to develop and engage deliberately supplier communities that are responsible and simply because we want a supply chain that is reliable, that is cost effective, that is sustainable, and that is ethical. I'm sure you've seen from the presentation from our teams the emphasis on these key elements that I've listed. So for that matter, the supplier development workshop like this play a very critical role in enabling us as a national company to attain these cardinal supply chain goals that I've just listed. So therefore, it is my sincere hope that this supplier development workshop that we have held today has achieved the following objectives among many others. Number one, that this workshop has shared information and resources that should now help you to improve the performance and capability of your respective companies, but also foster growth by your companies. And we do that because we know that we benefit from your capacities and growth as a buying organization. We also hope that this workshop has encouraged all of you, the various companies who are here to actively participate in the oil and gas industry supply chain by fostering collaboration between you, the various companies who are here, but also importantly, as it has been emphasized throughout the workshop, fostering collaboration between the national or the local supplier community and the international supplier community that have more experience and expertise in offering services in the sector. We know that such collaborations will ultimately contribute to economic growth as well as job creation in the country. So we are very, very passionate about it. The other objective that we hope that this workshop has achieved is to enable you to gain insights into the petroleum, into the industry requirements relating to procurement, including the emphasis that has already been made time and again on health, quality, first of all, quality, health, safety, and environment standards for the various projects. So we sincerely hope that these insights will improve your competitive landscape as you get better in offering services to us as a company, but to the industry in general in the country. And fourthly, we also hope that this workshop has addressed some of the challenges that you face as a supplier community, such as compliance issues, financing, questions of opportunities, logistics, and others. I want to believe that the discussion on the legal framework that we have shared, that our colleagues from the Petroleum Authority shared with us, as well as our team from Unoc, and many other areas of project management, will help you to navigate the industry complexities that many of you have highlighted in this room. And we hope that these will turn and lead into better collaboration between Unoc, that is looking for, Unoc and other operators that are looking for these services, and yourselves, by establishing a robust supply chain that ensures timely delivery of goods, works, and services in a cost-effective manner. I think, like I pointed out earlier, the focus of this workshop has been the opportunities for supplies and services in the Kasurubani contract area, which is an upstream project that we operate and hold 100% participating interest in. And therefore, in this respect, I want to say that we continue to undertake petroleum exploration activities in this block to enable us to confirm the presence or absence of oil and gas in this area. And I just wanted to remind you that since we were awarded the exploration license for this block, in 2023, we invested over $2.5 million US in the block, acquiring subsurface geological field data, interpretation of existing subsurface data like seismic data, well data, and things like that. And in 2024, we invested over $5 million in numerous exploration activities, including, again, subsurface studies, and like my colleague earlier mentioned, 2D seismic data reprocessing, and many other geoscientific studies. Now this year, we plan to invest up to about $10 million in this block in various exploration activities. So therefore, holding this workshop today gives all of us in this room an opportunity to identify areas of supply chain opportunities in this contract area that you can support our operations in. As you may be aware, as a country, we have also taken significant steps to mitigate environmental impacts in of the oil and gas activities in the country. And this has been raised by a number of you in the room, but I just wanted to underscore the fact that as a country, we have made commitment to ensuring that our projects are undertaken in an environmentally friendly and sustainable manner. So the country's commitment to environmental protection is a multifaceted one, combining a very robust legal framework that many of us in the room here know. I know my colleague Mike here mentioned some of them, but also focusing on both strategic and project-specific environmental assessment or impact assessment, as well as community involvement and sustainable practices that we benchmark globally. So by implementing these measures, as a national company and as a country, we strive to maximize the benefit of oil and gas production while minimizing its effect on the environment and the people. So in this regard, as you work with us as a supplier community, we want to highlight and emphasize to you that we consider all our procurements for all our operations across the value chain to have some level of impact on the environment. And therefore, as a responsible and a prudent operator, we also strive to minimize the environmental impact of all the services, goods and works that you offer to us in our various activities by incorporating the appropriate criteria for supply selection processes to ensure that we have a sustainable environmental practice. And so on that point, I want to implore you to also pay a bit of focus on some of the environmental requirements that we do embed in our bidding documents or processes. As I conclude, allow me to extend our very sincere gratitude to the industry regulator, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, who is represented here by Esther. Thank you very much, Esther, for making the time to come and represent the authority and update us on the status of the oil and gas projects in the country. And I want also to take a very special note to acknowledge and appreciate the excellent stewardship of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda in the very crucial role of regulation that they continue to play in the oil and gas industry in the country. So we thank you very much for always honoring our invitation to come and guide the supplier community in this workshop on the regulatory requirements for the industry, as well as sharing these updates with the community here, so that the opportunities therein become more apparent. I know that without a doubt, the participants have benefited a lot from the information that you have shared with us today. And so once again, thank you very much. To our partners, Total, Unoc, ECOP, Vito, who are here, we want to continue to pledge our total support to work with you on the projects that we have participating interest or shareholding in, that we are delivering together with you, and ensure that they are all a success for the benefit of all of us, the partners, but also importantly, the citizens of Uganda. Finally, to our very valuable partners, the banks, the partner banks who are here. I don't know whether Equity Bank is here, Stanbic is here, Stanchart. We do work a lot with them. The Stanbic Bank, the Stanbic Business Incubator, UCMP, the Industry Enhancement Center. We want to just make a statement that we are humbled by your commitment to continuously support our endeavors to I hereby declare action closed for God and my country.
A bigger hand clap to Phil. So now that the workshop is closed, it's time for the networking. We're going to do that over lunch. So as we exit at the different points, there'll be some people who are going to give you coupons. But before we do that, I'd like to appreciate the team that has put this together, that has made this event happen. And I'd like to request the Unoc team to stand up for recognition. I think they've done an amazing job. So let's give them a big hand clap. Thank you so much. Now, I'd also like to thank all of you who made the time. I know there's a lot of competing demands on your time, but we appreciate that you've dedicated half your day to being here with us. I see all the chairs are filled to capacity all the way to the end. I appreciate that, and we look forward to continued partnership. So with those few remarks, please network. Make sure you have a contact from all the people on your table, and looking forward to seeing you and partnering with you going forward. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.
Lunch is being served at the Paradise restaurant. It's downstairs. Have a good day.
Tugonza kubatangira once again mwebale kwija for this Q1 Kasurban contract. Babaragani ninyo Brian Ochaki Kabalega tugonza kubatangira once again mwebale kwija for this Q1 Kasurban contract area supplier development workshop. Hali tujja kubaza bintu bikwatagana n'omutindo